I
wasn't really looking for consent. I was just giving you a heads up. It's happening whether you like it or not.
You always have my consent, Mateo, no matter what.
Well, at least you gave us a little like shoulder brush or something. Like, hey, by the way, this is happening. Brace yourself. Instead of just just
any of the phrasing that is happening.
I know you don't.
In case anybody's wondering.
Oh boy.
By the way, I had a conversation with my sister yesterday. And she said that one of the reasons she'll never come on the podcast is because of no, not because of you. It's because of me. And it's because of the conversation and the innuendos and the type of jokes we make and how she doesn't want to be in that environment with her brother. Which I get.
That's fair.
Well, you can let her know that any week you're not on, she's more than welcome to fill in for you and just come talk that way with me.
I'm about to say, you make this you make this a 2/3 female podcast if he's not in 1 week.
See, now that works, Vince, because you can still see the background when there's that banner down there.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was trying to do. Like I thought you were going to add the banner.
I love that Will still had to be first, by the way.
Stay on brand.
Stay on brand. You have to let everyone know.
I actually took notes.
By the way,
so many movies.
Yeah,
there was.
Look at this. Look.
Mine's not that extent.
I've got notes. Are we using the same notebook, Katie? That's adorable.
Which one do you guys have? I have this one.
I have this one.
We are using the same fucking notebook, Katie.
Twins!
Look at that.
Hey,
that is so cool, Reek. What were you gonna
say? Well, yeah, I was gonna say he didn't see him, but Jigsaw and Spiral were both pretty decent, if you ask me.
Say that again.
I literally actually just got done rewatching Jigsaw today because I remembered not liking it. I'm like, actually, this wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But
yeah,
to be honest, we're gonna get through the 7 movies tonight. And if we have time and not everyone's not tired and it's not like a 3-hour fucking podcast, then we'll talk Jigsaw and Spiral.
Okay, see, so I came prepared regardless.
Yeah,
he's just got to keep you on your toes. Just keep
the main plan is 7 movies are the priority. Anything after that, if we got to fill time, it's there, it's available.
So I am still interested in watching Jigsaw because of the synopsis that they put on there, but I got the Stars free membership for like the free trial for the week, and I was able to watch the first 7 movies. And then I was looking for Jigsaw, and I had to subscribe to something else. I think H&M or something, or AGM.
H&M is a clothing store.
I know it is, but it was just some sort of thing, right? But it was
sounds like a trap. You should have signed up. I wanted to see what you did and what. Yeah,
I can let you know exactly what it was. Matter of fact, but I didn't subscribe to it. But I still get a free trial, so I'm like, let me finish my free trial with Stars, and then I'll watch Jigsaw there. But then I could have watched Spiral because it was on FX. But I'm like, that feels like it's a non-canon. That feels like GT.
Oh, why? Because Chris Rock is in it. You got is this a D'Lo Brown situation all over again?
Because I went based off of the synopsis, and the synopsis were saying that it's a copycat. If it's a copycat, I don't really. I just care about John Kramer. That's all I care about. Came for John Kramer only.
Real quick, Reed, 1 second. I need you to repeat after me. Se.
Me?
Se.
Nop.
Nop.
Sis.
Sis.
I wasn't gonna say no.
Synopsis.
Synosis.
No, it's not like hypnosis.
Hypnosis.
Synopsis.
Because I'm thinking it was another one of those things like debuted, so I was just gonna let it
go. It would have been right on brand. Wait, what was I saying?
Synopses?
Yeah.
Synopsis.
You're saying like 5 different things. That was not
synopsis. The
synopsis.
Yes.
Am I still not saying it correctly?
Synopsis.
It's okay. My wife makes fun of me because I say miracle instead of miracle.
Miracle.
You say miracle?
Yeah.
Miracle.
Put some oil.
Oh, it's a miracle.
Miracle. You don't say it correctly.
No, I say it's a miracle. Like that's how I say it.
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
It sounds like what you're saying.
America, a miracle. I know it's not spelled the same. I get it. I know why it's mirror, but that's just how I say it.
Miracle.
I mean, if you say it
shit all the time.
If you say it fast enough and draw no attention to it, you get away with it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's MGM Plus. is what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not H&M.
Because I think Lionsgate is part of MGM.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense as to why it would be there. I just didn't see if it was worth it or not.
Yeah.
Well, since you're here, Vince, you can co-host. You wanna here? I'll get rid of. First, I'm gonna go back to this,
Thank God.
and then I'm gonna get rid of this, and you, my friend, can run the intro.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 horror podcast on Pornhub, Getting Off, where we're hitting you with a little Sunday night heat, even though we're not Jay Lan over at Heel Tactics, though he did do the intro for this show, and it's dope as fuck. I am your host, the patron saint of podcasting, the Warden Mad Ritter, and I am here with a panel of sorts, all people that if you know me, you should know. First and foremost, she is my co-host officially on this podcast, one of the 3/4 of the core four that we have here tonight, Miss Katie Kinsey Bay, host of the She Lead Showcase, Inside the Mind of, In the Crowd, she says it's still a thing, and Story Time with Miss Katie Kinsey Bay. I got yelled at on a post show about saying In the Crowd wasn't a thing anymore, so. Also, the third of the four members of the core four that are here, as I always say, the man without which Getting Off probably wouldn't exist because he stopped doing the Havoc Hour with us. Dr. Reek Baker, BBC.
yay!
From Young Kings Wrestling, Reek Havoc.
Oh man.
My co-host, who is for the first time joining me for actual horror and not horror porn, because it's not really his thing, but demanded that I let him be on here, and I like him, so I said, "Fuck it, why not?"
Hey, I'm glad to officially be on Getting Off. I didn't demand. I just requested and petitioned for my credentials.
I can look back,
episode.
and I'm pretty sure the tweet said, "If you do saw, I have to be on there." That is a demand, not a request.
Depends on the contents and the tone, but yeah, we can look up the tweet. Go ahead.
However, his name is the Pornhub Poppy, Daddy Delgado, the Sultan of Spitter Swallow, my friend Vince, and last but certainly not least, the most kosher cock in the room, from Botch Spots and Chair Shots, purveyor of Rivet City Radio, a chef by trade, a mark by choice, and the only person to get topless with me on episode 300, the Will Gray.
I'm glad to be here. Instead of Justin, a Filipino with no hair, you get Will Gray, a Jew with a beard.
I'm okay with that.
I love you guys. I'm glad to be here. Always a pleasure.
And for those of you who are unaware, by the way, shout out to someone that you actually just did a show with not too long ago, Jamie Rose in the chat from Off the Top Rope. Thank you for joining us.
What's up, Jamie?
We are here to talk the Saw franchise. We discussed a little bit on the pre-show. If you didn't hear, priority is going to be the main series, the first 7 movies. If time allows, we'll talk Jigsaw and Spiral from the Book of Saw. But priority is Saw 1 through 7. Now, my question for each of you, but starting with the man who demanded that we do this, what is it about this franchise, out of all the horror franchises, that you were like, this is the one I have to be on the show for?
I remember like growing up and then just watching. I had I think we stole Stars at that point or whatever, HBO or whatever it was, Cinemax, and it was just playing, and it was one of the franchises that had like some jump scare initially. Now obviously the jump scare doesn't really work on me, but I love the puzzle aspect of it. It's like the whole thank you Jamie, like the whole I want to play the game. It was different take on the horror genre. It was completely different. It was very unique, and I was sitting there kind of like watching the game live. I'm pulling for these people to actually survive the game. I never wanted anyone to die in any of these games, and I don't know, just that aspect was kind of cool. The motivation, the villain, it wasn't actually supernatural, which is what I liked about it. But now I kind of hope that John Kramer comes back later on as a supernatural force. But I don't know, man. It's one of those things you can't explain. It's just like my love for wrestling. It started at a young age, just like with the Saw franchise, and I have a soft spot for it.
I have a hard spot for you, Vince.
I have a hard spot for you too.
Stole my thunder. I was about to say, do you got a softer hard spot for Saw? Anyway, Katie, your thoughts on Saw?
So I typically don't like gory movies, but I look at Saw as more of a psychological thriller franchise because Jigsaw is a menace to society in like a cool way, I guess. Like he's creating these things. He's a creator. He's not a murderer. He states many times in this franchise, he is not a murderer.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it. But no, like I look at it in that aspect, and like you do kind of root for some of these people, except when we get to Saw 3, that's no. But no, you kind of root for some of these people.
Mr. Will Gray.
Tit for tat, Katie stole my thunder because I definitely wrote down in my notes there are points in this series where it's more thriller or crime thriller or detective thriller than it is actual straight horror. So well played. For me, the first Saw came out my freshman year of college. Okay, so this was the first horror series. Katie, close your eyes. I'm old. Fuck. Like, so this was the first horror series that I saw in its entirety from beginning to end. That's what kind of makes Saw important to me because Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers, and there was, The Exorcist, and there's so many classic horror movies that came out before Will Gray came out, of my mother. Just clarifying. But, 2000, when this movie started, I've seen all of them now and in my adult life. So I was like, it's cool because I wasn't old enough to see every Freddy movie or every Jason movie. So Saw now is one of those horror franchises, and I've happened to grow up and see every single one of them. I haven't had to go back and watch them. They've came out as I've been alive.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. Actually, one of my fondest memories of Saw is the fact that I had a friend who, growing up, I watched a lot of horror movies, but I really, really got into horror in my teens. And he was someone that didn't really like horror movies. Like, he would not spend the night because generally we'd like watch horror movies and he'd be like, something happened. He'd go home. But when we got to that age and we got to that point, every year it was like our Halloween tradition. Him and I would get together and we'd go see Saw. Like, that was our thing. It was the one horror franchise he really got into. It was something that I explained to my wife. One of my favorite things about Saw, because if you know anything about me, canon is very, very important to me. If you establish something, you got to follow it. And not a lot of horror franchises follow a canon. However, the long-term storytelling from Saw 1 to Saw 7 is fucking remarkable. And we're going to get into that as we get into each movie, but it is really insane when you look at all of the characters that are introduced that you don't even really realize are a thing that are main characters in the next set of movies, and how everything intertwines and comes together and all of that. And it is why I love this franchise so much. And as Will said, same thing. I was born in 87, shortly after Will. So this was a franchise that all of the movies came out in the span of my lifetime when I was old enough to go see them with, out a legal guardian. So it was good shit.
Hey.
Because the first one came out in 2004. Like, that was like, what, like my seventh grade?
Freshman year of college.
It would have been 7th grade, maybe 6th grade at that time.
Junior year of high school.
So that's when I'm old enough to like really appreciate horror and not be like shitting in my pants about horror.
I was a year away from graduating high school, and Vince was a year away from graduating 8th grade.
Yeah.
and Katie was in third grade.
Katie was learning cursive.
Yeah.
Wait, what year did this come out again?
I was in,
2004. You were 10.
I was in like
Yeah.
5th grade.
It's like I like how we're aging ourselves.
Wait, Vince is older than you?
Yeah, apparently so.
I did not know that.
Wait, no.
Yes, I was born in '92.
How old are you, Reek?
I was born in 92. I'm 30.
Okay.
I'm 32.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Oh, I'm 31.
Wait,
I'm a year older.
that's, Jesus Christ.
He has nothing to do
Don't
with
let Katie
this.
do the
Her
We didn't come here to math. We came here.
greatest enemy.
How fucking dare you?
All right. Let's get into it. The first
Hold on.
I didn't
You
go
didn't-
turn.
He
Oh,
did
Reek,
not get
did you want to mention
explain.
what was about Saw that you wanted that?
Well,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, you kind of touched on what it really was, because I didn't consistently watch them all in theaters like you guys did. After we had 3 movies, I was like, okay, I guess we're done here. And then Saw 4 came out. I'm like, okay, I guess we're not done. And mentally, I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can do a sit through 5, 6, 7 of these. So after we got to 7, I said, let me go sit down and let me watch each one through now that we're finally done. And like he said, the long-term storytelling is what got me. Like when I realized we were branching out into a deeper story from start to finish, I'm like, okay, this is actually I can be done with this. And that's what kind of gave me a more of an appreciation for it. That on top of like each movie had its own theme, basically. It kind of goes from the beginning, but with what John was trying to teach, so to speak, in that particular movie. So yeah, the deeper meaning in each one was kind of like what started to hook me. No pun intended.
So the first Saw, directed by one of my favorite modern day directors of horror in general, James Wan. Written by both James Wan and Lee Whannell, who is in the movie. He played. By the way, as much as I love him in Insidious as Specs, he's fucking terrible as an actor in this movie. Like he really is.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I didn't think he was that bad. I was amused by it.
however, I said that Saw is a concise story. I will say, especially after rewatching everything to separate my notes so I could remember what happened in which movie, because certain things that happened, like I say, the way everything intertwines, I wanted to make sure that everything's straight. The first movie feels very different than the rest of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Wasn't the first movie like it had like the lowest budget out of all of them? So that's why
By far.
like that's why the majority of the film was in that bathroom.
I don't think that's why it felt different though. I think it was James Wan's directing style, because after this, the next 3 movies are directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. 2 of those movies are written by Lee Whannell, and then we start getting new directors and new writers who, props to them, didn't just say fuck it, I'm going to go do my own thing, and kept the story alive and kept things going. But yeah, no, it's just something about, because everyone talks, Saw is about, the twist at the end, twisted pictures, the twist at the end, right? Something about the twist at the end of this movie, the way it was revealed, just the way everything went down, it feels different than the Jigsaw that we kind of get to learn about later. I mean, he took Dr. Gordon's wife and child and basically told Zepp, if Dr. Gordon doesn't do this shit, kill those people. So while he's not murdering people, and mind you, him not murdering people was not a thing in the first movie, to be clear, he definitely put a wife and child at gunpoint.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
That is true.
And I mean, theoretically, technically, he killed Tap's assistant, or no, not Tap. He didn't. He didn't really kill Tap, but his assistant, who was, or a partner, who was chasing him through the house and shotguns, like he led him right into a trap, and he tripped a wire and got shot. That If I rig shotguns up in my house, Katie, and then I let someone walk into the room and get shot by them,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I'm getting arrested for murder.
yeah,
I'm not
100%.
disagreeing with you.
yeah.
That's
That's an affirmative
Oh, you're
pretty much
talking about
my
Sing,
mentality.
right?
thing. Yeah,
Yes,
Yeah.
Sing, yes.
yeah.
that's what
You
I'm
mean,
saying.
aka Spike from the X-Men movies.
And
Oh, Jesus.
there's no way you could tell because dude had the side blade like he was a Marvel character or something like that right on his wrist, and there's no way that he knew that that cut to his throat wasn't going to kill him. I'm just saying.
That's true.
I'm not disagreeing with anybody.
I don't
Just
think
saying.
anyone's disagreeing. I think we're all
That's-
just pointing
That's
out
John
facts.
Kramer's mentality in the rest of these movies, not determined in this one.
Well, which is why we're saying this one does feel a little different. And like I said, with Dr. Gordon's family, like the stakes feel a little bit higher. And we get back to that in Saw 3 a little bit with the stakes in the family. But and I guess a little bit in 2, but not as much. But because we'll talk about we're not there yet. But favorite parts of Saw, the original.
Besides the blood was at the end.
That was the best part of the film. I popped harder than when Jey Uso super kicked Roman Reigns.
That's the easy answer, though. The twist at
Yeah.
the end.
I liked in the first one how they had such a low budget, but they did really cool things with the camera work to tie the limited scenes they used. So they would use cool pans to go from the bathroom scene with Adam and the doctor, and then they would pan to the apartment, and it would go from a clock or something, and they would use really cool like points for frame to go from one scene to the other without having to spend a lot of time or energy to do it. So they were really crafty with their camera work in the first one to not like blow their load on their budget, but also at the same time you saw through their camera work how low budget it was in the first movie. So
Yeah.
That is true.
I think for me, what I liked about it is that you don't see it in much of the other films when they're in the game, where they're actually given a chance. I felt like towards the later stages of the movies, they're like a lot of the games like, oh, you have 60 seconds to figure this out. Like as opposed to the first film where it's like, oh, you have till like 3:00 to decide to kill this man or whatnot. So they were giving
There's a reason for that, though.
Yes, there is a reason for that. I understand, but I like the back and forth. To be honest, from Dr. Gordon and Adam, how they were trying to piece everything together as they were piecing it together. So I love that aspect of it. And yeah, I don't know, like the first one, it's your first one. You never forget your first one, so you just remember it fondly. But I love that back and forth between Adam and Dr. Gordon. Adam not showing the picture of like Dr. Gordon's family being like tied up and everything in the wallet. Like
Not
that.
just that, but like the bag of pictures with the fucking
Yeah.
hacksaw that
Adam
he
was a little
took.
piece of shit, to be honest with you.
Adam was a piece of shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Granted, Dr. Gordon was no better because he's out here cheating on his wife, but
He did not
Think-
cheat on his
No,
wife.
he did not
Nope.
cheat.
think about how
Ooh.
fucked up Adam has
really
to be
close.
as a person to find this stuff, knowing he knows Dr. Gordon because he had been paid to like take pictures of him, everything that's going on. How fucked up as a person is Adam that he'd be like, I'd rather go with being chained to a fucking toilet than just telling this guy the truth.
Yeah.
And not just that, waking up and accusing the guy that he's been taking pictures of being the one that put him there. And like,
Yeah, that's
We're
some
chained up in the same
ballsy
bathroom.
accusations, my
I've
dude.
been watching you for weeks taking pictures of you. You did this to me. How do you know more about this than no, you knew more than everybody. You're a fucking liar, and that's why you're here.
He's a shiesty son of a bitch, that Adam.
because the way they told the story, they made it seem like the sketchy one was Dr. Gordon because he knew a little bit too much about Jigsaw.
Mhm.
Like before he actually revealed that he was a suspect and he was like kind of like framed because of his pen being at a crime scene. But then as the story progresses, you're like, damn, Adam is a piece of shit towards the end.
Yeah.
Like he becomes the sketchy one because he's the one that actually put them both in there. And that began a theme in almost every other movie. I can't recall if it happened in every single movie. We'll talk about it. But there's always one guy that's involved in the game that actually helped put people there. So like he was taking pictures of Gordon. And then obviously we'll talk about it when we get to Saw 2, but the one white dude actually helped get some of the people into the house in Saw 2. So that's
One white dude. So specific.
it's the one white dude. He looked like he was
There's
probably
many
done
white
some-
And as we actually get into the franchise, we actually find out how this first game was set up and who
Yes.
helped drag the bodies there and chain them up, including Adam, and who's involved in all of that. One of those characters, as I mentioned, but before I get into that, Reek, you didn't get to go again.
Next time, let him go first.
Yeah. For me, it was kind of a little bit of what you were just talking about. That reveal of, the characters and like who they really are at the end of it, but also that slow descent into madness for Dr. Gordon, because it's like he starts off, he's the doctor, he's level-headed, and he's trying to think everything logically and how he can get out of this, and just not going too deep into it. But then by the end of it, his family's in danger. He thinks that they're getting shot at, and he can't find a way out of this. All this, the ways that he's been trying to work with Adam to get out is failing, and he just loses his shit completely. Like his demeanor, his face changes. He just goes nuts and cuts his own leg off. And I mean, it's one of those things that it's like, it's fun to watch after a while.
You know what, though? Wesley's been through the fire swamp. This should have been nothing. All right. And if you have not seen The Princess Bride, you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
Oh, I mean, listen, it's different. He changed his life around.
That was a deeper cut than him going through his leg with that hacksaw.
Before you move to the second movie, because I know you're about to.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay, good. Because how are you not going to talk about the inclusion of one of the more famous traps, the reverse bear trap?
My favorite trap in the whole series, but I know
And
that question is
One of
coming. Yeah.
I wasn't done yet. I've got some questions. So one thing speaking of what Katie just brought up, nice transition. Thank you. I appreciate it. As I mentioned, characters are introduced every movie that seem like minor characters that then become major characters. And that starts here with the introduction of the reverse bear trap and Amanda, the only person that we knew up until the game that we're watching being played out live between Adam and Dr. Gordon to survive a saw trap. With the reverse bear trap strapped to her head, having to carve through the body of a person who was still alive to get a key to release herself before the 60-second timer ran out, Vince.
Bazinga.
Yeah. To be fair. And then the whole point of his traps being, cherish your life, to, change. She was a drug addict who was taking her life for granted. And after surviving this, she says, saw me in half, Daddy. Thanks. I absolutely will. But no, she said he saved me. Like, he helped me. Like, she was the first person that we see that had the gall to survive a trap and then was changed by it, which was his intent from the get-go.
I loved Amanda as a character in the first two movies because she's the reason why I was rooting for everyone to escape the traps, because she's like, okay, we see in the first film that you can survive the traps. You can survive the game. You can win the game. And I just want to see more success stories, if that makes any sense.
No, that's fair. Dr. Gordon cuts his leg off. Adam gets electrocuted repeatedly through the chains. Dr. Gordon doesn't understand, because he didn't get electrocuted the first time, why Adam fucked up his terrible acting job of faking his own death from smoking a cigarette with poison on it. The reveals, all this stuff happens. Very end, John Kramer stands up, peels the prosthetics off his head, looks at Adam and says, the key to those shackles are in that tub. And then we see that when he woke up and he pulled the drain plug, the key goes down the drain. Which, like, if the key was in the tub the entire time, it's really fucked up. Like, he could have just left at any point.
Yeah.
But also, you had to know that they were going to drain that fucking tub and that key was gone. Like,
Yeah.
He did not really give them a chance to escape, or at least not Adam.
Right.
Um,
And rightfully so.
because the way they set it up, because they showed it, I think it was in Saw. What was it, Saw 2 or was it Saw 3, where they revealed how Amanda got Adam in there, and she just tossed the keys on his chest and then started the running water, essentially. So he woke up from that and then just like lost the keys. That's actually one of the first things you see in the first film.
I don't even think that was Saw 3. I think that was later because, well, we'll get into Saw 2 and what the reveal is there, but it's later when we get into Amanda helping Jigsaw set up that first trap, which, spoilers, when we get into Saw 2, Amanda's role.
So,
Yeah.
What was your favorite trap from the first movie? Will said reverse bear trap.
Ooh. Just to say something different, because the bear trap is my favorite. The razor wire.
I was about to say the barbed wire maze.
Yeah, because that's insane. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's where you kind of just sit back and your first time watching it, you're like, yo, this is some deep shit.
That's a little sadistic right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Katie, Vince.
Well,
bear
Rick's,
trap. I brought it up.
yeah. Well, that was Katie's. Rick actually beat me to the punch with mine. I was gonna say the barbed wire maze.
I'm gonna go with the broken glass and the dude covered in flammable fucking liquid having to find the combination.
No,
Oh,
that one
yeah.
that one I didn't like. That one I just felt bad for the guy.
Jesus.
He had the feet. Oh,
I didn't feel bad for anyone for a second. I was in it to watch people die. I didn't want to. I was opposite of Vince. I was not rooting for anyone to live. I want to see all the fucked up. That's not true. The prostitute number 2, which we'll talk about. I want to see her live.
Oh, man.
Because I support sex workers.
We know.
So we get into Saw 2. Unless any other thought. Oh, we didn't even mention Zepp. So
Yes.
and okay, Danny Glover plays Tap first and foremost, who is a cop who is chasing down Jigsaw, who after getting his throat slit and losing his partner is kind of fired and still is pursuing them. He is the one that hired Adam to take pictures of Dr. Gordon because he was convinced and it brought Dr. Gordon in that Dr. Gordon was Jigsaw. And we see the whole kind of evolution of John Kramer being a patient in the background with cancer that Dr. Gordon talks about so cold about, oh, he has terminal cancer, and Zepp comes in, he's like, his name is John, he seems kind of caring. I want to know what fucked up thing Zepp did to get poisoned and roped into this, because they didn't explain that.
Oh yeah.
I think you just didn't like the way Dr. Gordon was treating John, because he's like, as the patient, it's like his name is John, so maybe he just took.
Right,
Like-
but what did he do to get poisoned? Become part of the game. What was his sin?
The leverage. What
Maybe there was no leverage. Maybe he was just a blind follower. You know.
I was about to say, we find out as the movies go, like his killing posse, like this dude was Manson level when it came to like the cult that followed him in a lot of ways.
But Zepp was part of the games. He had he had a tape. He was injected with poison, and he was told
so was
that
Amanda on multiple occasions.
That was a little different, though.
So how do we not know Zepp wasn't? Is my point.
Because they revealed everything but that. So
Yeah.
So that's the one thing.
I watched 7 movies and they never said it happened. All
You're right, Matt. You're totally right. I'm wrong. I love you.
Let's just say, just to throw it out there, Zeb was probably diddling nurses in the back and being inappropriate, and someone snitched.
He did look
about
a little bit like a creep. I'm not like,
No,
he
he
had
definitely was a creep.
He had that perv look to him.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going down in the morgue and inappropriately touching some bodies, which is why men are less likely to be hired as morticians. If you guys didn't know that.
Wow.
I had no idea that was a
It
thing.
is, but it's not a surprise to me.
Not surprising in any way, shape, or form.
Dan
Being a
Bakley,
man
ladies
is
and
not a
gentlemen.
surprise at all. Saw 2. We get introduced now to what's going to be a running theme throughout the franchise of a police department and their corruption and paying for their sins, starting with Donnie Wahlberg
Donnie.
himself, as I like to refer to him, Mr. Wow, why is her name escaping me?
Jenny McCarthy.
Yeah, Mr. Jenny McCarthy. As a corrupt cop who framed and abused and beat false confessions out of, essentially his victims to get convictions, put people away wrongly. Amanda being one of those people that he planted drugs on and put away. And then her drug addiction started while she was in prison for drugs that she never had. He has a terrible relationship with his son. Part of me thinks that he was fucking Carrie, at least at some point.
Had to be.
They were. They mentioned that he had an affair with Carrie.
It was kind of like loosely touched while they were inside one of the Jigsaw's cage that had the monitors or something like that. Like she made some like loose reference about that.
I don't remember that, but like they talk about it in like towards the beginning. Like he's like all mopey because his wife left him because he had a fling with Carrie.
I mean, I would too.
I remember him saying like that his wife, he divorced, but so I didn't remember him mentioning them two. But it makes sense. I assumed it, but I just didn't hear the reference.
They find Jigsaw. Detective Matthews goes in there because his son is missing, and his son is now a part of this game, and tries to interrogate Jigsaw. We get introduced to officers Carrie and Rig. Carrie a little more prominently than Rig. Rig's just kind of in the background at this point, but he'll be important later. Who are Detective Matthews' backup, and as everything unfolds, we find out that his son, who has been kidnapped, is in a house full of people that Detective Matthews has wrongfully convicted, who all hate him, and their job is to figure out what they all have in common as a poison slowly courses through their veins in this house, and the antidotes are all set up in different traps that they have to survive to get the antidotes. Amanda is here. She says that the reason she's here is because after she won her game, she wasn't being very good to herself, and alludes to a little bit of self-abuse. So we don't trigger too many people. But as mentioned, she's actually the placebo, the control group here to kind of make sure everything goes the way it's supposed to and everyone follows the rules.
Well, not necessarily everything goes what it's supposed to, because throughout the franchise, like John has stated that I plan for every possible outcome and I just let the game out unfold. Amanda's just there to make sure everyone follows the rules essentially. So
Which is what I just said.
Yeah, but
verbatim actually. you know what a control is, right, Vince? You remember like 6th grade physical science where
it's been a minute.
Okay.
What I was going to say was there's actually a discussion later on between a character we have not talked about yet, and we're not going to spoil, and John, where that character says, if you anticipate people and you know how they're going to react, why is Amanda there? And John says to make sure that they follow the rules.
Yeah.
And that the game is being played.
Yeah, everyone needs to follow the rules. That's the main thing in this whole franchise. Follow the rules.
And nobody fucking does.
Nobody knows how.
Except for Amanda.
Except Amanda.
Well,
a couple people.
Well, it's not even so much that they don't follow the rules, which, I mean, yeah, a lot of times they don't, but it's more so that they don't really follow instructions.
Yep.
And that's a bigger thing that comes in the later movies.
Yeah.
But in their defense, this is the kind of thing where it's like read all the directions and before starting, and the last direction is like only write your name at the top of the page. Those are the kind of fucking directions that Jigsaw leaves for these people.
It's like I agree to terms and service.
Yeah.
Like, reading those long ass paragraphs.
And that's why, you give your soul away to Apple and they can sew you into a fucking human centipede if they wanted to. You didn't read the terms of service.
Hey, I like my blue bubble.
Charge
Leave
an
me
iPad.
alone.
Aren't you with Apple, man? Why are you?
I am. But it's a South Park episode where...
Yeah, I know this.
Yeah, you didn't read the terms of service. Yeah, exactly. That's what terms of service. Didn't read the terms of service.
I'd human centipede with you, Matt.
No,
I'd definitely let someone attach your mouth to my ass. And then eat cuttlefish.
Can we move on?
The reveal here is So Detective Matthews is actually the one really playing the game. His goal is to just sit patiently and talk with John. That's all he has to do, is show some patience and talk with John until the timer expires. But he is under the belief that by the time the timer expires, his child will be dead. So he cannot abide by the rules, even though they were laid out clearly. By the time Detective Matthews finds out what's going on, we all find out that the game in the house has already played out and been done. That is one of the big twists, is everything that we have been watching with all of these convicts already happened and was done and over with.
It's a tape delay like SmackDown.
Yep.
Also, the big reveal at the end that Jigsaw has led Detective Matthews to a house, and the game ended in the same room that the first movie took place, and Detective Matthews finds that, and then we find out Amanda is working with Jigsaw, and Detective Matthews gets drugged and chained up and left in that same shitty basement bathroom. Listen, one thing I have to say about this franchise, I don't know what fucking city they're in, but why are there so many fucked up abandoned buildings and warehouses and factories and just like disrepair?
Well, John just
everywhere.
buys them and lets them be abandoned.
He owns like 90% of that city.
He had cancer, guys. He got a little busy.
I have cancer.
Well,
I don't
look.
own like 57 properties.
I'm about to say, yeah, that has nothing to do with it.
Of like toys and shit.
Let's say it was nothing to do with that. It's the fact that he just had all these different things that he was trying to do beforehand, and that's another thing that the later movies started addressing. Like he was working on a bunch of. He opened up the plant, and he named after his son. And then like a bunch of other stuff. Like he was busy before he got cancer. But cancer just said, "Hey, let me start using all these resources that I have all over the place."
Yeah. Well, that and the near-death experience that he did when he drove over the cliff.
Look at you, just transitioning me to what I was right about to say. This is the movie where we find out John's motivation behind doing everything that he's doing is, even though we knew that he had cancer from the last movie, if you really paid attention and noticed who the guy that stood up at the end was, he was in a near fatal car crash and he survived, and then found out that even after surviving something he shouldn't have, now he has brain cancer. He wants people to learn to cherish their lives because it took that for him to learn how to cherish his life and everything he had, despite being where he was at. So his goal in life is to put people through these same adverse, almost impossible near-death experience, so that if they do come out on the other end, if they do have the will to survive, they will appreciate the lives that they had and the time that they have left.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the fun shit. Let's talk about what happened in the house, our favorite traps and things that we saw going on. Reek, I'll start with you.
Oh man, there was a couple things. Like, the first one that comes to mind right off the bat was the furnace. Well, for Obi, he gets in there, and I think when he went in, he grabbed. I know it was the first one he grabbed. I think there was a second one he grabbed before there was that the lever or whatever. So he had two, which was all he went in there to get. But that third one that I guess he wanted to get greedy. They decided to grab, and that's where the door closed, and then it was a rat form.
No, so it was only two. So first he passed a lever that would have turned the gas off, and there was like a hint for that saying, "Hey, turn this off," and he just ignored it and kept going.
Yeah,
grabbed the first one. He's like, "All right, cool. You guys can fight over this one, or this one's for me." And then he's like, "All right, you guys can fight over this one." And he goes to do it. And when he undoes it, the door shuts and the flames come up. And then he sees, oh shit, I should have turned that. And he can't get to it because the flames are coming. And poor Obby, which, by the way, the only two times I've ever heard the name Obby are in a Dane Cook skit and this movie.
Wait, was it Obby or was it Obi?
It was Obby.
Because I thought it was Obi, like Obi Trice.
It was spelled
No,
Obi.
no.
Real
but it
names,
was,
no gimmicks.
it was Obi. If you listen,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's the way he himself pronounced it. So that's what I'm
Okay,
going
okay,
for.
all right.
yeah.
But yeah, that the one for I forget her name, but she was a prostitute. Um, she had the one in between the glass. Well, she wouldn't just she was out of it by this point in time, but she just started sticking her hand up there to go get it, not realizing that it's covered in that glass that sticks her fucking wrists in. And then from by the second time, by the time she get the other one in there, it's you stuck.
And
You can't go nowhere.
that trap wasn't even for her.
No?
No. So if you look, all of the traps were set up specifically for the reasons that the people were in there. There was my favorite one, which I'm sure one of you is going to pick, so I'll wait because I want to give everyone a chance. But Amanda was there for self-abuse, and that trap was designed for Amanda's self-abuse. She never played. She just ignored the tape deck and never played it to hear who it was from. So that wasn't really her trap. Just like the trap that Amanda ended up in wasn't Amanda's trap. It was meant for someone else. But anyway, favorite traps.
Yeah, I was about to get to that because that shit was cringy. The needles.
Yep.
That
was the one.
Yeah.
The needle pit.
Yeah.
That was 100% my pick. I was going to say Amanda with her history of drug and narcotics to get thrown in it, but also Matt bringing up the point of they're being switched and it's still working for her even though it wasn't her trap. Like that's kind of cool. Like the storytelling that it involves. But Amanda falling into the pit of needles was like that's just yucky for me in general. Because I don't like needles.
She was tossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck Xavier, man. That's the one guy I never rooted for.
Yeah, man.
It fucking sucked.
Yeah, first time you see that just unsettles you a little bit.
Oh yeah, no. That was the one that probably got me the most, and it was like the least gory one out of all of them, if you think about it.
Yes and no. Like it's definitely cringe inducing, and
yes, but I meant like there's no like I don't know. Like there was less blood involved with that one.
It made me go ugh the most, but at the same time I was like, this is the most likely one to survive because you're gonna get mangled and cut up, but like as long as you don't flail around, like
tetanus and AIDS.
Yeah, I'm about to say that.
She probably should look at all the. Come on, you think she's worried about tetanus or AIDS at this point, Matt?
At this point,
yeah. My favorite would have to be the Magnum eye hole revolver one, the one where like the dude, I don't even remember his name, like the fat dude, he just went in there. It's like, and the rules and the instruction was clear: do not enter the key in that one. He entered the key and then he just got fucking shot right in the eye hole. That was my favorite one. That was my favorite one because point blank there. Listen, follow the rules. All I have to do follow instructions.
That's what I was saying before. Simple shit. Like they just want to screw this. I'm not listening to you because you kidnapped me and I'm in the middle of this thing. So I'm just gonna do what the fuck I want to do anyway. And there you go.
I do give the earlier films more of a leeway in terms of like the players in the games. They may not know fully about the Jigsaw Killer, but after a certain like number of films, like you should know who the fuck this is.
Amanda was there. Amanda survived. Amanda said you have to follow the rules, and they didn't listen.
No.
There's no excuse, no leeway.
No excuse.
Katie, go ahead.
So mine wasn't one from the house. It was the death mask. He had the key in his eye, and I can't. You guys know me. I can't do that. So I would have to die. Like the death mask would close on me. But that was like a perfect amount of brutal because like you just see it close and you know he's dead, and then he just falls and then you see the blood pull out. Like simplistic.
That's how the film starts, doesn't it? With the death mask.
Yeah, that's the very first thing. So initially, I thought he had it like right inside the eye, like deep in there. There was like we find out later with
right underneath.
There's like a little patch that he made and kind of sewed up. So when I found that out later, I'm like, I might have been able to do that because you're really just breaking up the stitches. Because
There's a reason why I'm 38 and I've never worn contact lenses because shit ain't going in my eyes. Period.
Well, nobody should be shitting in your eyes, Will.
That's how you get pink eye. Well, I mean, it might not be, but
yeah.
Hey.
But the way he was
He lives
like
in Tennessee, kid. He comes from Slack.
Yeah, the way he was like flinching to take the blade towards, like, it's like he was gonna go right in his eye. Like, okay, I get that, but it's like, no, there's a patch right here, bro. You gotta cut the stitches up and go in there and get that key. Like,
he was panicked.
I get it. I understand. It's just, hindsight being what it is. I probably could have pulled that one off, maybe.
For me, it was the needles. I agree. Every movie has that one like really cringe-inducing scene, and this one it was the needles. In the first one, it was watching Dr. Gordon saw through his leg because he thought his family died, and just watching that as Adam's like screaming and freaking out. Like, there are all these traps and all of these things, but just certain moments are just like hard to watch in these movies, and this was that one. Her raking through the needles to find it and being stabbed and all of that. Vince mentioned it. Xavier was a douchebag. Had his nail-filled baseball bat buried in the back of dude's head because he figured out that everyone had. First off, I don't think Xavier was smart enough to know Roy G. Biv, so I don't know he would have got that thing open anyway. But all the numbers were in, over the rainbow on the back of their necks, so he was figuring that out. Cut his own off when they're like, "Oh, who's going to read you yours?" He's like, "I got this shit," and just peeled his own off.
My whole thing was with Xavier. It's like at the beginning, he even said, "Like, you don't even know the order of the combination." Like, that's my thing.
That's true too.
And one thing that I need to touch on before we move on to Saw 3, Seventh Heaven fame, Beverly Mitchell, making her horror debut.
She did nothing in this movie.
She looks fantastic doing it.
Yeah.
True, but like, no use.
So the mother from Seventh Heaven was in a horror movie. She was in the original Child's Play. The oldest brother was in Boogeyman, the original Boogeyman that came out, or the first Boogeyman that came out. Her older sister is obviously motherfucking Jessica
Biel.
In Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all sorts of other shit.
Right.
Now here she is in Saw. That whole holy family from the Seventh Heaven sitcom just getting dirty and horror.
I remember watching the trailers like, yo, what is Seventh Heaven doing here right now? Like, this is so out of place for you.
She didn't pray hard enough, apparently.
I guess not.
Does anyone else have anything in their notes about this movie before we move on to Saw 3?
I'm just gonna get this out the way now, but it's gonna expand later. But Tobin Bell and his acting, this was like the first one that we kind of saw, more of the conversations with John and stuff like that, and the monologues that he goes on. Like, that shit is A1.
The best.
Like, completely. The whole conversations he was having with Matthews and everything like that, and like that was where you knew, like, this shit, however many movies it's gonna go, this shit is really good.
Facts.
Yeah, he made the films for me.
Yeah.
Even later on, just like the cameos, like basically like the flashbacks. Yeah.
I don't know if Will's just really high or if he's reading something. You got something, Will? No?
I'm just nodding my head in agreement.
I saw you looking down. It looked like you were like...
No, I was reading my notes. My notes aren't in chronological order, so when I changed the page, I was seeing how many I had, like 3, 4, 5, and 6 on this page before I had to change my page again. I am incredibly high, though.
At least you're honest.
Saw 3, like I said, the last movie written by Lee Wanell, Adam, for those of you who aren't sure, or Specs if you're an Insidious fan. So the cool thing about this is we find out eventually that Saw 3 and Saw 4 are taking place at the exact same time.
Oh, that was the best part.
Love that.
That was one of my favorite reveals. It was kind of like in Insidious 2 when you found out that all the stuff that happened in Insidious 1, you're watching it happen in Insidious 2 and all that. Which again, Lee Wanell, James Wan,
It's all
fucking love you guys. But essentially, Jigsaw is on his deathbed, literally, as a game is being played. His brain tumor is killing him. Amanda, as we know, is working with him, and we start to see that Amanda's got some issues with creating games that people can't survive because she doesn't feel like they deserve redemption, or maybe trying to, mercy kill some folks.
So she's breaking the rules?
She's breaking the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
We also get introduced to Detective Hoffman here, who is going to be very important very soon.
Yep.
Carrie is kind of the main focus, and we also watch her die in a trap that Amanda set up for her that she could not win, even though she should have won.
She should have won it,
She did win.
She damn sure did.
I mean, she didn't win because her ribs got ripped and thrown to fucking from the windows to the walls. Her insides were running down the walls.
How dare you?
Her insides were rat food.
I'm saying technically she won.
Whatever titty she had was gone.
Yeah.
But the main focus of this is Jeff and Lynn. So Lynn is a doctor that it is made very clear to us is having some marital problems. She sits down and discusses it with a gentleman who tells her, I want a divorce. That's what I want from you. She's also having some problems because of the at-home stuff at work, where she's not really focused on her job as a surgeon who's there to save lives. And she is kidnapped and brought in by Amanda to help save John's life in a backwoods vet's office, essentially. They strap a collar around her neck that, should John's heart rate stop, will blow her head to smithereens.
Yeah.
If she tries to get it too far away, it will go off. If she tries to deactivate it, it'll go off. She's there, and she keeps trying to tell them, I can't, I've already come through. I can't save this man. She's forced to put all of her bullshit aside and focus on keeping John alive, and does some very back alley medical bullshit to get John to stay alive and relieve the pressure on his brain. Meanwhile, Jeff lost a child. Kid got ran over, and Jeff can't deal with it. He's abusive to his existing child because of the pain that he's suffering. He's waving guns around. He blames everyone for the loss of his child and felt like he didn't get justice. So he is here, and his game is pretty much given the opportunity to either punish the people he feels are responsible for the reason why his child didn't get the justice it deserved, or to learn some compassion and save them. This is also the first and only instance of titties in this franchise.
Not only.
So
frozen titties, but titties
Frozen
nonetheless.
Yeah.
Titsicles, if you would.
Titsicles?
Get out. Kick him from the call. How dare you?
Titsicles.
Yeah.
Should I talk about the big reveal at the end, or do you guys want to get into some nitty gritty here before we do that?
Can we just talk about how Jeff is probably the worst person?
Really?
This
Jeff
man-
is not the worst.
This
Jeff is
man
not the
moves
worst person.
like in the game. Like he moves so slow. There is no urgency in this man in any way, shape, or form.
You know who the worst person in the entire franchise is, Katie?
Who?
Amanda.
Well,
When you
Yeah.
find out everything that Hoffman knew and blackmailed Amanda with to get her to act the way she does in this game,
well, yeah.
because the game is about Amanda. It's not about Lynn. It's not about Jeff. This is Amanda's game because they know what's going on. But when you find out what she did and that she knew what she did and she still saddled up to John and let him treat her like a daughter and all of that shit, she's the worst person.
She is.
I was saying like in the not like the overall game,
Yeah,
in the game.
compared to other characters in the past, right? Like
Is what I was
like
saying.
in Saw 7 and Saw 6 with like the dude from like the insurance and like the dude that was like saying that he was a survivor when he wasn't a survivor, so he was put in the game because of his lies.
It's called karma.
Yeah, but
Um,
no, that she definitely takes the cake out of all of them. But no, I maintain that Jeff was probably coming off a bender. He was probably hungover, and
Yeah.
that probably led to a lot of his like frozen moments where it's like he just looked lost and delirious. That because I don't think they said it outright, but he definitely looked like he was an angry drunk during part of this, and grief is a son.
He's a
bitch,
grieving
so.
father. He held his dying son in his arms.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Agreeing with that.
It's just
Like-
that's probably playing a bigger factor because he definitely he was drunk as shit.
Out of all the characters that are playing the games that have other people's lives in their hands, compared like to the insurance guy and the other dude from Saw 7, Jeff's the one that I feel the most sympathy towards because he was put in a room with not just anyone. He wasn't even put into the room where he has associates or friends that he's trying to save. He got put into rooms with people that indirectly or directly are responsible for his son's death, and also the killer, like the dude that ran him over. Granted, it was a mistake. He wasn't like doing it to just like run down children on purpose like a sick bastard. But the judge was also there, and then also like the one eyewitness that could have said something and maybe got in a harsher sentence for the guy. So being put in that spot, I can understand. Like we're all good people, but we all have a bad side in our inside of us that might put in that situation. We might like be leaning towards like, yeah, I'm gonna let this person suffer.
Is that
Up until
Allison?
Huh?
what?
I heard something in the background.
That's Melissa blowing her nose.
Oh,
Come on, guys.
okay.
You should know this by now.
Up until this point in the
I thought it was
series,
Allison moaning. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
she's asleep. Up until this point in the series, it's been a lot of one person doing one trap to get out and not die. So getting into 3, you see a lot of the correlation with us starting to spread out of the original writer-director combo here, and we start adding new pieces to the puzzle. And one of the things Matt talked about was the continuation of the Saw multiverse, so to speak, like the canon of the series. The stacking of it with Amanda and then John's surgery and everything that stacks by the end of it. And then when you get into 4 and realize it's all happening at the same time, you start realizing that you're Charlie Day smoking a cigarette in front of his whiteboard with all the strings connecting to the points in the story. And you're like, I think I've got it figured the fuck out. And then 4 happens and you're like, I have no idea what the fuck is happening.
Yep.
Like that's kind like 3 is that point in the series where you realize how big it is. It's not just John. You realize how big his murder posse actually is. And it's just crazy. Like 3 is that turning point, and ironically, it's that halfway moment for the series because 3 and 4 go together. So like if you look at it that way, like this is that halfway point where you're like, oh fuck, shit starts to get big with 3. It's not just John Kramer. It's not just Dr. Gordon. It's not just Adam.
Seeing as Vince is muted and we didn't hear anything, he tried to just say, on Vince's point of feeling bad for Jeff, I would agree with you up until the point of when, after everything that happened, it was time to prove that he had learned his lesson, and that man still slit Jigsaw's throat,
God,
which then got his wife's face blown the fuck off. And shot Amanda.
Yeah.
He learned nothing after everything he went through and everything he saw and all the people he tried, very delayed, but tried to save.
Very fucking slow.
He did save the judge.
And
One of 5.
No, one of. Well, yeah, I guess if you count Amanda and Lyndon, Dr. Lyndon, yes. So yeah. He's sympathetic up until he gets to the room where he gets confronted by Jigsaw, and he just like slits his throat. At that point, I'm like, Jeff, you fucked up. At that point, you fucked up. You lost all my sympathy.
How
mean,
is
I
a
mean,
man on
look.
his deathbed going to confront you? But okay.
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, somebody had to get killed by a saw at some point. And I mean, if anyone's going to have that on there, it might as well be Jigsaw. So, I mean,
Huh.
I get it. I agree
I
it was
like
stupid and he didn't learn anything, but I get it.
Who
Also,
got killed
too,
by a saw in 2?
Wait, what? Say that again.
I said, who got killed by a saw in 2?
I don't remember. Did anybody?
I'm trying to think right now, but like my brain's a blank. Matt, just give us the answer, man.
It's not.
I'm asking a question because Reek said somebody had to get killed by a saw. So I'm literally asking a question. I'm not.
Well, I'm saying like this was the first time it happened. So I'm like, somebody had to catch that at some
Well, there was
point
a
in
saw
time.
in the first one with him sawing through his leg.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying like somebody had to get killed by one
Okay.
eventually.
Mhm.
So
I just don't think there was a saw in 2 at all.
No.
I don't believe
I don't
there
think
was. No. No, but
Besides the rusty one in the bathroom, but that doesn't count.
that's true.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, because it makes it. It's the same one from Saw 1. The same
Yeah.
But we don't
saw
see
is
it again
there.
until 4, so it doesn't count.
No, we see it. We see it in 2.
In use. In use.
Yes. Okay.
Wait. Xavier dies because dude slits his throat with what?
A saw.
the same hacksaw that was
Saw.
in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's the
yeah.
hacksaw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
You did have
So
the
a saw.
answer.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
These movies all blend together. It's so difficult.
And this
If-
was the first time we had
So much
people in
continuity.
traps that weren't necessarily like super bad guys either. You know,
Yeah.
like some of them had did kind of some shisty shit, but like the whole point was Jeff figuring out how much he was willing to let them slide for the shit they did.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
know what
like
I
the-
mean?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't necessarily like somebody was addicted to crack. Yeah, they all did some fucked up shit, but they were all collectively little pieces of one big fucked up shit. So it was like how much like percentage of that shit was Jeff willing to let slide?
So, personally, if I'm Jeff, like, yeah, he did everything and eventually just try to save someone, like save all of them eventually, slowly. But even if you have like this hatred for Jigsaw for putting you through this whole ordeal, you see your wife just got shot and has something around her neck. Don't you think he might have answers? Also, too, he's on his deathbed. If I'm just me, I'm just like, I'm gonna dirty my hands and kill this man. God's gonna take him before, like, at some point, anyways.
That is true.
We're also we need to focus on the fact that we mentioned it, but the entire game that was being played that Amanda thought was being played with Lynn was actually the game for Amanda,
love
including
that stuff.
everything
Yeah.
that had to do with Jeff, because he said you're going to have to choose to save a life. All the stuff that Amanda thought was being said to Dr. Lynn Denlin, who was the wife of Jeff, who
Mhm.
was actually cheating on her husband. So the guy we saw her with in the beginning of the movie was like, I want a divorce. He meant from her real husband. All of this stuff he was actually relaying to and saying to Amanda. And it's not till the very end that after she gets shot that she's like, oh, fuck, I fucked up.
Yep.
Also still abusing herself with knives. But
Yes.
in her thigh, knife stuff to hide it so no one could see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a thing though.
Was it's real interesting when she started taking her pants off randomly. I'm like, oh, what's
Listen.
going on here?
Listen, she shouldn't be abusing thighs, man. Thighs save lives.
They
I
do.
do. Thighs save lives.
They absolutely do. No, but
Jigsaw's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
This was like the first little inkling that they had that there was a third person or a third accomplice, because I know they mentioned when Carrie's trap was set up, it's like the weight that she had was a
Next
bit
movie.
much.
That was in
Right.
4.
That wasn't for.
They
Okay.
find her in 4, and then that discussion happens.
Okay. Yeah,
So we'll save that for when we
That's
go
true.
for 4.
that is true.
What I was going to say was John Kramer, Jigsaw, said that the rack, which is the trap that the young man who killed Jeff's child was in, that twists every part of your body and breaks the bones, last being your neck, is his favorite contraption of all time. But what are each of your favorite traps in this movie? Mine being titties, frozen titties, titty sickles. Mostly, like, yes, because I got to see a woman naked, and I love seeing naked women. They're fantastic. However, mostly just because, like, Jeff waited until she was dead to decide to go get the fucking key. Like,
That's what
he
I
walked
fucking
over,
mean.
and he poked her and like saw the face crack. He's like, "Oh fuck, let me do it now." Also, he could have just taken a piece of his sweater and like put his face and not burned his face. Like, there were ways to avoid getting himself fucked up and hurt himself.
He takes his time to like basically give his own interrogation to each one of them before he says, "Okay, you know what? I've decided you should probably live or you should die." Like,
But she was dead well before he got that key.
Oh, I know. Yeah, no track of time. I'm gonna chalk that up to, again, he was drunk, hungover, and just
also
not
that was the first one.
realizing the time frame.
If they changed the order, like let's say they put like the judge first, or they put like the rack first, and have that be like the second or third trap, she might actually get saved because at that point he knows he's in the game. He has to do this, and he, like, also, you know, it's the shock. You like it's the first one you're playing. He's probably doesn't realize the gravity of the situation.
He's literally slow in every single trap. What do you
Katie
mean he
hates
doesn't understand?
Now, to be fair, though, the last one was definitely the hardest because you had to burn all of like the shit.
No, that was the second.
That wasn't the last one. That was the judge.
Yeah.
Actually,
the last one was getting the key off with the shotgun, and he was supposed to shoot himself and take some pain to get the key, and then it missed him and hit the judge, and he killed the judge anyway. So
yeah.
Honestly, if you did it in reverse, he probably would have saved both of the rest of them, because I'm pretty positive that if the first person he's confronted with is the dude that actually hit his son, he's probably not even going to save him. He's just going to sit there and watch him get twisted. And
then he would have felt good about it, and he'd be like, "All right, I can let everyone else off. I got my justification."
Yeah,
exactly.
But favorite traps?
I'll go since we already talked about it. Which is the judge one. Because that one, he actually had to burn all the items of his deceased son and pictures as well to get the key to save the judge that gave a short sentence to the guy that actually killed his son. The fact that he was in the pig vat, the vat of pigs with the carcasses, and then just that was disgusting. But I love the metaphor. I took it as a metaphor, because you know how like cops are pigs or whatever, like the judicial system, they're pigs and stuff. So I loved that it was pigs. They were being tossed into the vat, into the blender, and he was being bombarded by that. Personally, I was just like, you know what, that's going to be disgusting, but that's probably the least gruesome one out of all of them. And it really tugged on the heartstrings, because I'm just like, fuck, if I was Jeff and I was in that situation, like, just put yourself in that situation. You lost your child. You have to burn all the items that you've saved of your child in the pictures to get the key. I feel like that I can sympathize with that. I haven't been a father, but they call me Daddy Delgado and the Porno Poppy. I'm a Poppy in some respects, so that would be hard for me to do, and it's not the easiest thing. So I can understand the hesitancy with that aspect of it, but you have to do it because at the end of the day, these are just physical items as opposed to an actual life, and I really don't want to be responsible for the loss of someone else's life.
Okay, so pig slop for Vince.
Yes.
That's the one I had to, but I also felt like it was just a metaphor in general for him needing to go through the grieving process and just come out the other side of it, because I think he just got stuck in the wallowing in pity thing. And it's like, yeah, I get it, you did lose a child, but it's like you have to go through the grieving process and process it completely, and then you got to start moving forward. The rest of you still have your wife, and there was still another child. So it's like you have to take that next step forward, and he refused to do that. So this was kind of him forcing him to do that by burning the stuff.
Mm-hmm. Will?
The rack. In my notes, I actually wrote it in all capital letters and circled it because one, that with it being the guy who killed his son, he's going to die in that trap. And two, It was, if you've ever broken a bone, you know it fucking sucks, right? When you break multiple bones, it really fucking sucks. Like 10 times worse than just breaking one. But you have to break a lot of bones to go into shock and go unconscious. Those bones are going to twist and break, and he's going to feel every fucking piece of it for a minute, like before he goes.
Yeah.
Did somebody say the rack?
The rack.
Oh boy.
The rack.
And I wrote
Listen.
it down in all capitals for you. Look, the rack.
I hear that Miss Katie Kinsey Bebe was on the 300th episode perpetrating lies about how she doesn't like working with the rack, and now all of a sudden the rack show, the porn parody watch alongs is getting canceled by that idiot Matt Ritter. Katie, I blame you. This is all your fault. Matt, blame porn. Listen, if you had just admitted you love the rack, maybe the show would still be on, but you talked all that shit. Now we lost that show. This is all your fault.
Damn.
Katie
What
cost us the watch alongs.
Fuck.
Katie cost us the watch alongs.
She never wanted to do it. She didn't want to do it deep down in her spirit.
She's the one that's been reporting it to Pornhub.
If you ask me, it was Pornhub. They were the problem. The rack definitely feels differently.
They could see that she was not into this. They felt like she was being held against her will. And they said, okay, we got to shut this down. We can't have it no more.
There are witnesses. I actually enjoyed the last one we did that no one will get to see.
Which is mighty convenient that that's the one she had fun doing when nobody else gets to fucking
Don't
see
you
it.
always ridicule and
damage-
complain about how the draft that no one got to see was the best one because you guys smoked me and you blame me for it?
Smoke you so
We did
hard.
smoke you.
You
There's no
barely-
question about it.
Sure, that's why I've been winning every single draft after that.
Fuck off. We're not talking
Yeah,
about
when you
that.
got your ass kicked as bad as you had to get it kicked, you definitely stepped your game up. I'll give you that. Katie, what's your favorite trap?
Thank you.
Besides
mean-
the rack.
Yeah, besides the rack. I'm going the angel trap, Carrie's trap. It's the most iconic one of the movie, and it technically should have been winnable, but Amanda, being Amanda, was like, nope, ribcage, gone. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it might just be like how they shot it or like the lighting, but it's like, I don't know, it just looked pretty. I think that's why they end up calling it the angel trap. It's just
Well,
like the
it's-
silhouetting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
The-
I don't know,
the
that's
im-
fine.
The imagery was meant to be pretty.
Yes.
You've all disappointed me. There's only one trap that we didn't talk about this entire movie that I was hoping someone would pick, and that is the opening trap. That is
I almost picked
the
that one.
chains with the welded shut door.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that one, and that one technically he could
I
have
thought we
gotten
was
out
forgetting
of,
something.
except for like the door being like shut down and unescapable.
No, that one was also inescapable. He had hooks in both Achilles and
there's no
through. Yeah, no, he was not surviving that.
You rip
if
out
he
those
even-
hooks in your Achilles, you're not walking out the door. You're
Exactly.
You're the one out here. Who fucking knows what's gonna happen?
You can crawl out the door.
Dr.
Dr. Gordon crawled out the door.
But by the time he got him,
He at
all
least
out,
had one
he wasn't
leg.
gonna be able to.
not, and he didn't
Yeah.
have a timer to crawl out the door.
You know, fair point. Fair point.
I thought the thing in the little the
No, I'm
bombs in
talking.
the
Dr.
jar.
Gordon didn't have a
Oh
timer.
yeah.
He was just
Yeah.
able to crawl out the door after he cut his leg off. This dude, there was a timer and a bomb was going to go off, and he
Yeah.
would have had to crawl out to make his way.
Yeah.
Speaking of, there being a timer and a bomb going off, I'm about to drop you guys some bomb ass ads here from Creation World that you guys can check out. If you want to watch the free version without ads over at Patreon for just $1, you can go check that out. But while you're here, please support our sponsors.
Spice things up in the bedroom, then it's time to check out Adam and Eve. Because you see, Adam and Eve is the leading adult toy store that offers a wide range of products to help you explore your sexual desires. Whether you're looking for something to use solo or with a partner, they have everything you need to satisfy your cravings. From vibrators to lingerie, bondage gear to lubricants, AdamandEve.com has it all. And the best part, you can shop with confidence, knowing that all their products are of high quality and backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. That means whether you bought a dildo, sex swing, penis ring, vibrator, anal sex toy, bondage toy, couple's toy, lube, or accessory, you can get a refund within 90 days if you're not 100% satisfied. No questions asked. And right now, as a special offer to our listeners, Adam and Eve is giving you 50% off almost any item on their website. That's right, 50% off. And if you act now, you'll also get free shipping. So go to adamandeve.creationworld.com and use the offer code erotica at checkout. That's erotica at adamandeve.creationworld.com for 50% off almost any item and free shipping. Don't wait. This offer won't last very long. The link is in the description. Attention dog lovers. Are you looking for high quality products to spoil your furry friend? Then you need to check out dog.com. Because you see, dog.com is the go-to online store for all your dog-related needs. They offer a huge selection of dog food, treats, beds, and more. Plus, they have products for all types of dogs, from puppies to seniors and everything in between. And the best part, you can shop with confidence knowing that all their products are made with your dog's health and happiness in mind. Dog.com only stocks top-rated brands that you can trust, so you can rest easy knowing your dog is getting the best. And right now, as a special offer to our listeners, Dog.com is doing a big warehouse clearance sale. And all you have to do is go to dog.creationworld.com and you can get up to 80% off on all sorts of items like toys, treats, bones, harnesses, bowls, leashes, and anything else you can think of. So go to dog.creationworld.com and take advantage of this sale right now. Spoil your furry friend with the best products from dog.creationworld.com today. Link is in the description. Are you tired of feeling sluggish and unfocused throughout the day? Then it's time to try Dubby, the ultimate energy source. Dubby is a powerful, clean energy drink that is designed to help you stay alert and focused no matter what life throws your way. Whether you're a student, a busy professional, an athlete, or especially a gamer, Dubby can give you the boost you need to take on the day or the night. It also contains important aminos and vitamins that canned energy drinks simply don't have. And the best part, Dubby is made with high quality ingredients and is completely sugar-free, maltodextrin-free, and is keto-friendly. So you can enjoy the energy boost without any of the crash, jitters, or angst that comes with traditional energy drinks. Simply mix Dubby with water and you'll have a delicious, refreshing energy drink that can help you power through your entire day. And with a variety of flavors to choose from, including Galaxy Grenade, Beach and Peach, and Dragonade, you're sure to find one that you love. So go to dubby.creationworld.com and order your Dubby today. And for a limited time, use code Creatia at checkout to get 10% off your order. That's Creatia at w.creationworld.com for 10% off. Try Dubby today and feel the difference. The link is in the description.
Yes, it is. Two final things here, real quick, about Saw 3 before we move on. One, this is the first indication that I felt that Jigsaw was more so out for revenge despite his noble intentions, because we find out, obviously Dr. Gordon, now Dr. Lin, who also gave him his prognosis of being inoperable. So we're starting to see a pattern here, as we'll continue down the road, of people that directly did John wrong.
Well, technically, he didn't volunteer Lin. Someone else volunteered Lin, as we found out in 7.
Well, they had to pull records to find out, who actually made the call. So
because in 7, that person says this person would be perfect because of every connection that they have with, like, obviously with the Jeff stuff and everything else.
Mm-hmm. You have an excuse for the insurance agent, or was that revenge?
The insurance agents. His vibes were off.
Nah.
Yeah, that was revenge.
Gordon
was revenge.
Dickhead.
The insurance agent was revenge. Lynn was revenge. There are a few people in here we'll get to, all of which were revenge traps. Last but not least, because we talked about it, cringe-inducing moments. For me, the most cringe-inducing moment in Saw 3 was the back alley brain surgery, the drill into the skull, and all of that, and opening up the skull to release the pressure on the brain, and watching her saw through bone and drill through bone and peel layers back. Like, that was the
like actually seeing his actual open skull.
That was more cringe when I originally watched it. The second time it wasn't as cringe, maybe because I watched so many medical shows where I just see some stuff like that, where it just like numbs it. For me, the most cringe was Amanda's self-abuse. That always just like doesn't sit well with me. So that was the most uncomfortable I was watching any scene in that fourth movie. Wait, the third movie, sorry.
All right. We also find out that Jeff was there because of saving the child, not realizing that it was his other child, his daughter, who he had been so neglectful of, that was at risk due to his actions at the end, not the life of the child he had already lost. But as we end this movie, Jigsaw, John Kramer, dead, Amanda, dead, yet somehow there is a Saw 4. We kind of already spoiled it. This takes place at the same time. That is kind of the big reveal at the end of Saw 4, is everything comes together and you're like, oh shit, everything's happening. John's still alive. That's why it's still happening, because this is all happening as Saw 3 is actually taking place. But this is Riggs' story. Officer Riggs, man who, despite extensive police training and multiple situations, just doesn't know how to not go through a fucking unsecured door.
Yeah. Ugh.
That was his final test, and he failed.
That was his final test. It happened in the first movie, or no, the second movie. Yeah. When they broke into the house in an unsecured door, and dude got his legs fucking hobbled in the stairs.
Yep.
Like,
wow.
Yeah, that was bad. That was really bad.
In the cage stairs too, because the dude fell back onto more other SWAT guys.
Yeah,
and then they got electrocuted.
If that's me and I survived that, I got to shoot you in your kneecaps, because you the one in charge. You're supposed to know better.
Another poor victim who just could not learn the lesson, no matter how hard. But there's also another bit of revenge here, because the opening trap features John Kramer's wife, Jill, and John's business partner / lawyer, Art, who not only survives his trap, but is then put into a second trap that he has to live out, where it looks like he is kind of in cahoots with Jigsaw, helping things out. We find out that our boy Officer Matthews is alive, despite the fact that, you're not Jigsaw, bitch. Amanda tried to kill him because he broke his own leg to escape the basement. He survived. He's been kept alive, fed piss and shit in a hole.
Yeah.
And now Hoffman is also part of this trap. He is sitting on the other end of Officer Matthews in a chair that, should the block of ice that Matthews is standing on melt enough, the water will shift and he is going to get electrocuted. As Riggs is kind of being recruited. Like, they're trying to teach him, hey, don't go through an unsecured door, but also they're trying to show him, like, this is why we do what we do. Look at these people and see who they are. And he kind of makes Riggs sort of decide, are you going to have sympathy for these repeat offenders and these criminals, or are you going to take matters into your own hands and make them do the traps? And at one point he does. One he tries to save, and she tries to kill him because that's the rules of the game if she doesn't want to go to jail. He also loses his wife. She leaves him, like, at the very beginning of the movie. She's like, fuck it, I can't take this anymore. I'm out. And that didn't teach him a lesson.
Yeah. Damn shame.
His wife was trying to save him. Had she just left with his wife, it's like, let's just get away from this. That was the main point of his game, was that he gets consumed by his work and doesn't know when to like stop. Like he can't save everyone. It was the main thing too. It's like you
Yes.
can't save everyone. You got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of the people that are around you. You have to value and appreciate the people in your life. He didn't appreciate his wife. She bounced.
I don't think it's really all that. It's more so like he tries to save everybody and he can't.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. You can't save everyone. Is what he's trying to let him know.
Yeah, that was more to the point. It's like, yeah, the whole going through an unsecured door thing is one thing, but it's like that urge that you have to just act all the time. It's like you have to fight that back. And because he wasn't willing to do that, it's like now you're costing people their lives. And
Honestly,
this is the big one.
he's the reason why Eric Matthews lost his life at the end.
Well,
And Art
Shit.
Art the say what?
I said no
shit.
Well, he's the reason why he lost it. He's the reason why Art lost his life. The lawyer. He's also the reason why the pimp, the woman pimp, lost her life because all he had to do was just leave her there. He just wanted to walk away. If he didn't lift up the cover, the blanket, the little timer ticker wouldn't have went off.
The godmother, if
The
you will.
woman pimp.
Let's talk about that woman pimp real
pimp.
quick because here's where I
woman
have an
pimp.
issue. This
Woman pimps.
Here's where I'm gonna nitpick a little bit. How the fuck was Riggs supposed to know the order in which to put in the numbers that he found on the gears to unlock that kind? Like, there was no. It's just like, oh, the numbers are in the gears, and then he starts finding them as like her scalp's getting ripped back. But like, how did he know what order to put them in?
I think he just put them in as he got them.
Yeah, but he got like the
Yeah,
middle
but-
one first. Like he didn't
Yeah.
see the
Yes.
top one. Yeah.
It goes
Lucky
back to
fucking
the
guess.
it goes back to the instructions we were talking about. Like they give you everything you need, but they're just not in the right order. None of it like
It doesn't make sense.
yes, this is one of the when the Fast and the Furious, Matt, you and I have talked
Yeah.
about this a lot, okay? And I felt like after 3, the Fast and the Furious started to not be great anymore because the concept became bigger than what the original Fast and the Furious movie began. And when we
Same.
talked about movie 3, I said by the end of 4, when you find out it all goes together, where Charlie Day smoking a cigarette, everybody's like, "What the fuck is happening?" After this point, like it starts to get that way at some point. Like it starts to get kind of harebrained and crazy. The
agree.
introduction of John's wife, Kramer's wife, introducing all of that. You start tying in this funnel that started with Adam and the doctor in the first one has progressively gotten bigger as the movies have stacked up on top of each other with all the circles overlapping and connecting dots. This was the first time where I felt like, okay, did they really close in all those plot holes to make sure this makes sense? This was the first time where I was like, okay, now it seems to be a lot.
I don't know. I don't think I ever really got that feeling. Like I was impressed with how well they did to maintain the canon and keep everything going. Because again, like we talked about in the beginning, each movie they introduce a character that's going to be more important later. This movie, Reek talked about it briefly. Agent Strom is introduced along with
Yes.
Perez, and they're the ones theorizing that there's a third accomplice
Yeah.
who may be helping because John Kramer's the brains, but Amanda's not she's not the brawn because she couldn't pick up Carrie and put her in that, so there has to be a third person. We're also introduced to Jill, who we find out was John's wife, and all of these things, and she's very important going forward in the series. Very important going forward in the series. Actually, one of the things I'm most surprised about going forward in the series when we get to that. Again, Rig we see in 2, we see a little bit more in 3, but now is the main focus of 4, bringing that in. Hoffman having a bigger step after being introduced in 3, huge one, because we find out that during the autopsy of John Kramer, where they find in his belly a tape that they play talking to the officer that you won't get tested, and we all think watching the movie they're talking about Rig. They're not talking about Officer Rig. They're talking about the third accomplice, who was revealed to be Hoffman himself.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I like the also the detail where it's like, oh, two officers are being targeted, and they at first they thought it was Hoffman and Matthews, and then where it turns out that it's actually Strom and what was the other
Perez.
agent?
Perez.
Perez. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
them two that were targeted. Um,
How you
oh,
fuck
there
with
was
Perez
there was a
like
lot
that?
of twists and turns in this one. This is one like this is one of the ones where at first I felt like it wasn't gonna be as good as the first three, but then it turned out to be just as good in terms of the story and the weaves and like the reveals at the end. I really like this one. And Katie was talking about like the worst one was Jeff. I think Officer Riggs was probably the one that I was rooting for the most because low key I was kind of hoping he joined the cause. I thought he was going to be recruited. I thought by the end he was going to be part of the crew.
join the cause.
Nah, he's too much. He's not level headed enough for it.
Because he put the sexual abuser from the motel in his traps. He had to put a few.
Good.
Yeah, but I mean that's anybody. Like you see, this dude is clearly a serial rapist, and he's got video and photographic proof of it all over the place. It's like at that point, it's like you get what you get, bro. Like I'm just setting this, and you just gonna figure out your way out of this if you can. But no, that's any person with a conscience. Like I'm doing the same thing.
Same.
Favorite trap?
I'm gonna say the woman Pip, Miss Peel your muffin cat back, because I don't know how after all of that happened and you're missing half your ceiling, you still decide let me try to kill this dude. I mean, listen, who's really gonna take you to jail besides him, who just saved your life? Like, I just at some point you gotta use some critical thinking. Like,
Also too, like what a piece of shit. He just saved your life. And it's like, well, the worst thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to go to prison. And like, you did terrible things. You should go to prison. It's like he saved your life. How? At that point, I'm like, let that bitch die.
Like
at that point,
go off the grid if you got to. But again,
yeah,
he's the cop here, so
he just saved your life. Like that's crazy.
And if you knew about Jigsaw already, which I'm assuming you probably did, he's not going to go to the cops because he's notorious for this shit already. So again, critical thinking. Nobody seems to have.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
Anyone else? Favorite trap?
I mean, the ice block is fucking ridiculous. Donnie Wahlberg deserves so much better than that.
You mean the new kid on the block?
Ah! Oh, you're so punny.
I got you.
How fucking dare you? No, that was the coolest thing. Like, the smashing of his skull, terrible. Like, that was the cool part about it. Like, him having to try and stay balanced on one bare foot and then a boot because, he broke his ankle. And then just trying to stay on it and kind of keep Hoffman up. But, like, I was like, that part's okay. Like, we've seen more extravagant things. Cut to the end. Boof. Done.
Yeah, that's like
he got his Oreo double stuffed all the way, and the cream filling was gone.
What the fuck?
Oh,
yeah, he's just like
somebody get him out of here.
Oh no.
Well,
yeah,
played.
like there was a point where it's like I kind of felt bad for him because, he was a pretty shitty dude in Saw 2, but then it's like at the same time it's like, he had to go through his own trap. He found a different way out of it, but then he never finds out if his kid's alive or not. So he gets to make up for it, and then he just has to go through, like Matt said, the purgatory. He's a caveman by the time you see him again because he's barely eating. He's got a jumpsuit on like he's been in jail for real, and his leg's broken. He's on a block of ice. It's like he didn't really get the chance to kind of see if he learned from his experience, but the blocks of ice just said, "Fuck all that. You're just this is what you get to learn."
It almost felt like that it was revenge for what he did to both Amanda and Jigsaw after
Wow.
almost beating Jigsaw to death.
Wow.
That
That
he
is true.
escaped, that he failed his test, was locked up, escaped, and then was just still kept and tortured, and then eventually killed anyway.
Yeah, that was a little fucked up. I kind of felt bad for him being held captive all that time.
Yeah.
Because even at that point, he was trying to hang himself. He's like, I just want to die. I don't want to play anymore. He said as much. While he was in the ice cube trap, he's like, I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to play anymore. Like, imagine wasn't it revealed that he was gone for like 3 months?
6 months.
Was it 6 months? I don't think
Yeah.
it was 6 months.
I think it was.
I think it was 3.
It was a long time.
I could be wrong. Regardless, 3, 6 doesn't matter. That's a long time to be just like kept in the hole, essentially.
And that's another thing too. It's like we didn't even mention that too. How do you, as a human being, beat the shit out of a man who's terminally ill to the point of damn near unconsciousness? He
Kidnapped
snaps
his
his
son.
finger. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get it. I get it. But it's like, again, dude is like dying of cancer, and he told you all you have to do is sit here and talk to me and just listen to me, and your son's going to be safe. So he gave you all the material.
Raise your hand if you have a child. It's funny because these are the two people I want to talk about. Will could have been in the middle of chemo treatments, and if he knew where my kid was and he was just like, no, just hang out and have a conversation with me, I would beat him with the medicine they were putting in him to make him tell me where Zoe was if he had Zoe.
Oh my god.
God damn.
Wow.
Ooh.
Just to be clear, like that would never happen because I'm like I'm great with kids. Like Jaden would be a great mother hen for Zoe. It would never be an issue. Not an issue.
But I'm just saying, being the only person here on the panel who was in John's somewhat situation, but also the only one that understands the love of a father for a child, 100% sympathy. I don't care who it is or what you're going through. You could be a quadriplegic, and if you're not telling me where my kid is, I will beat the vegetable out of you.
So if he if he says your son will be safe as long as you sit here and talk to me, and you ruin that, like you potentially risk your child not being safe.
He didn't necessarily say your son will be safe. He said all you have to do is
your
talk
son
to
is
me
in a safe place.
He said your son is in a safe place.
And the entire time you're watching your son with all of these people you convicted, murderers and all sorts of shit.
Yes,
in a
but
trap.
that was your own doing. Those are all people you wrongfully convicted. That
100%. But again, your son is in a safe place, but you're watching your son not be in a safe place.
And
I will also argue that Matt would not have a room full of people in there with Zoe that he's done dirty. Like
that's what I was going to say too.
Like Eric,
said.
Yeah,
because you can put yourself in that scenario, but at the end of the day, like you weren't doing all this dirty shit to people. At the end of the day, you didn't have a career of extreme
are you
brutality.
trying to say he is not wholesome? Or are you trying to say that
I mean, everyone that's ever listened to a podcast knows about Scumbag Matt, so I'm sure there are a few women out there that wouldn't mind.
I mean,
see,
I forgot about Scumbag Matt.
He exists.
I never knew Scumbag Matt, so this is the only Matt I know.
I feel like those people would have something different in mind for you, but that's just me. You know.
I don't think they would necessarily do anything to harm Zoe.
Yeah,
mostly
I think
harm you or any of your extremities.
You don't know how bad some of those people might hate me, and it's defining out who Zoe is. Like they don't know who she is, so they're not going to do shit to her until they find out. Oh, that's Matt's kid. They might. Never know.
Interesting.
I think that's slightly different. I don't think they react the same. But I'm
thinking more Lorena Bobbitt treatment, but that's just me.
I definitely have a couple of those. There's why I don't have Facebook no more.
I thought you did. You sent me a message on Messenger.
Oh no, that Messenger account is not attached to a Facebook account. You have to know that Messenger account exists to see it.
So I'm one of the few.
What was your favorite trap, Will?
Not necessarily one singular trap. I liked how in 4, even contrary to my opinions on how at this point it started to be too much, I liked how they tied in so much of the first 3 movies to make it canon. Like you saw a lot of callbacks to the original 3 and a lot of callbacks to the old traps and how they were set, sort of. And I liked that because I appreciated that more so with the fact that I was like, why? Why is because at the end of 3, we all thought it was done. You know, like that was the point. So watching 4 the whole time, we were going, why? Why is this happening?
I wasn't. I was like, yay, this is continuously happening. This continues to happen. I want
felt
more
like
of this.
I felt like when all the key, I appreciated it going into 5 because 4 was that turning point for me. 4 is maybe my least favorite of the 7.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
My favorite trap was the dude in the hotel room with poke your eyes out because you're a dirty pervert, because he deserved it and I wanted to see him die. So
he definitely.
yeah.
That's for mine. We haven't even talked about this character, but the very first trap, if you go in chronological like canon order, the knife chair with Cecil, where he gets that was the first indication that he's doing this for revenge. He put Cecil in there because he is essentially responsible for the miscarriage of Jill and John's child, and he puts him in his first contraption, the chair knife. He has to push his face. That was 5?
Yeah.
I thought that was 4. No, that isn't 4.
I
That
have
isn't
in my
4.
notes John and Jill lose their baby in Saw 5.
Yeah, but the knife chair trap gets revealed and everything. That happens in 4.
Are you
I
sure?
don't think it does.
Yeah, I mean, even in the Saw wiki and everything, I looked everything up and make sure that it was all chronological.
Mhm.
But the knife chair was in 4.
Yeah.
Come on, guys, don't paint me out to be a novice.
Yeah, man.
I came with 3 pages of notes, and you motherfuckers have out talked me. I still feel like a novice with 3 pages of notes.
However, speaking of Cecil's death, if Vince is correct, and I just put it in the wrong spot, that's not how Cecil died, though. Cecil actually died in what was one of Reek's favorite traps, but it was a mini version of Reek's favorite trap from the first one, the barbed wire maze.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I love that was my favorite trap in the 4th film, because that was the first trap. Essentially, was the knife chair. He succeeded. He got out of it technically.
It's because it was his first trap and it was poorly put together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he got out of it, but he had a chance to be like, okay, whatever. But I just loved the first trap. You never forget your first. I liked it. It was. If it didn't fall apart, this would have been a really, really cool trap, because like you actually have to like disfigure your face to go ahead and actually unlock everything and get out of it. So I liked it. So that was my favorite personally. And also introduced Cecil, because personally it's like, if Cecil doesn't cause the miscarriage of Jill, maybe this doesn't even happen.
It wasn't on Cecil.
Huh?
That wasn't on. I mean, Cecil did it, but Cecil was
I'm about to say
pushed to do it by somebody else.
Yeah, he just had the right motivation, and someone had to give him that motivation. So, my last thing for this, I gotta call bullshit on something, because you're telling me that John, who his brain tumor is to the point that it's near collapse in his brain, is barely talking and sitting in his bed. You're telling me that he took a cassette tape, encased it in wax, and swallowed it before he died.
It will.
Enough that it got into his
How accustomed were you to swallowing medication?
At the peak of my chemo, in one setting, if I was on my oral chemo, I would take between 10 and 15 pills at a time.
So that allows me to believe that John had no problem swallowing that cassette tape.
He had a deep throat.
100%. I can raw dog a handful of pills like it's nothing. The idea of swallowing an 8mm cassette tape does not seem foreign at all after what I've like. Yeah, I completely agree with Matt.
See, I'm glad you're here, because if it were not for that, I probably could not buy this, because I'm telling you, every time I watch it, I'm like, how the fuck is this
It wouldn't be pleasant, but it's not out of the realm of a possibility. Like it could be done.
Okay. I rescind my statement.
Katie, you ever swallowed anything bigger than a cassette tape?
I'm not having this conversation with anybody.
Why'd you do that right as Rick was about to take his drink? You made
I didn't plan to. I just waited for the pause, and it just happened to work out.
He scores, ladies.
What about you, Vince? Ever swallowed anything bigger than a cassette tape?
No.
Well, yeah, he was deep throating dildos. That's why his throat was hurting last week.
That is true.
Whoa.
Matt can make
What
that
did
joke.
I miss?
All I did was
Deep throated dildo, apparently.
No.
Yeah.
all I admitted to was like, is that the cock I'm willing to gag on as a new euphemism or metaphor for things.
Yeah, we remember that part.
That's all I said.
All right, then.
I know Reek hasn't because he didn't think it was possible, so there's no point in asking Reek.
There you go.
I, not for the same reasons Will has, but I've always just taken pills straight, never like chased it with water or anything. I just pop pills and swallow. Just the thing that I do. So
I can't do it.
again,
I had a
that's where
hard
I'm at.
time swallowing pills as I was growing up.
Me too.
It was I don't remember when or how, but I eventually just started being able to do it with chasing them with water. Now I'm at a point where I can actually just like pop a pill just like as is.
We are getting into the fifth movie, so 3 left to talk about, just over halfway done, and we're about to hit 2 hours. So if we do Jigsaw and Spiral, it'll be in a separate episode. Any final thoughts on Saw 4 before we move on to 5?
What you for?
Saw 5 is where things, as Will says, kind of take a turn, because now we're not, like, John Kramer is still around in flashbacks and things like that, but it's not really about John anymore. Now it is about Hoffman, the sole survivor, as far as we know at this point, of the Jigsaw crew setting up these traps. Strom at the end of 4, we think, is trapped in the room where John died. We learn that he finds his way out. He gets set up into his own trap because, again, does not follow the rules and says, fuck Jigsaw, and just goes and does whatever the fuck he wants. And it's all set up to make everyone die and Hoffman look like the hero. However, Strom, being a resilient motherfucker,
The will to live.
as the box full of water fills, man takes a pen, just shoves it in his throat like Vince with a dildo, pops that out and starts breathing through the neck hole. I had to. It was there. I'm sorry, Vince. Vince, as far as I know, Vince has not deep-throated an actual dildo. It's just why I said his throat was hurting. If that makes you feel better, Vince.
Proceed.
Strom survives. We didn't even mention the fact that we did kind of mention that Perez and Strom were being targeted, and during that targeting in 4, Perez took shrapnel to the face and was in a hospital bed. In 5, we're told that Perez is dead. Strom is fairly convinced that Hoffman is the killer and won't let it go. He's being removed from the case, but still won't drop it, still pursues Hoffman, as Hoffman is running his own game. And honestly, this is one of my favorite games. Because this is the game of the people who were all just supposed to work together to survive, and through their own selfishness, fuck themselves up to the end. We're also introduced to Erickson, who is an FBI agent along with Strom and Perez. We get the backstory of how Hoffman pretty much gaslit Amanda into failing her test and getting herself killed because of the stuff he knew about her, including the fact that she's the one that was with Cecil, who encouraged Cecil to break into the clinic and led to pregnant Jill having babies smashed and miscarriage and everything that kind of happened.
Which, again, adds to your statement of Amanda being the worst character.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
Worst
specifically
person
why I
in
said
history.
she is the worst character. That was the entire reason why I said she was the worst character. because she did that and then still cozied up to John afterwards, knowing what the fuck she did. Terrible person.
Yeah.
But Hoffman knew that and didn't tell John that. He should get like Hoffman is probably the accomplice I like the least. He's the one that was rooted against.
I mean, we learn a lot about Hoffman here. We get his backstory. We find out that his sister was killed. He tried to copycat Jigsaw by setting up a trap that the man who killed his sister and then got off on a technicality and only served 5 of his 25-year sentence. He put him in a trap that he could not escape. Jigsaw finds him, coaches him, explains to him there's a better way to do things. This is the murder is distasteful. I don't murder people. I give them a choice. I give them a chance, blah, 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 blah. But also that Hoffman is a very brutal person, which I feel like is really laid out in what he does going forward without John being around, is the brutality in Hoffman. And also the fact that he also failed to learn anything, just like Amanda and everyone else that Jigsaw tested, except for maybe one person, as we go forward, because his lesson was murder is distasteful, and by the end of the franchise, he's murdering motherfuckers left and right with his bare hands.
And that's the thing that pissed me off, and it's probably one of the reasons why Saw 7 is probably my least favorite of the original 7.
But there's a reason for it. Like, that's who Hoffman is.
Yeah, but that's why I never liked Hoffman, because he doesn't actually embody like the whole like ideals of Jigsaw. He never actually gave anyone a chance. He was an actual murderer, and from day one, John's like, I detest murderers. I don't condone murder, and he still does it.
Yeah, Jigsaw had a plan for that motherfucker and got him in the end.
Yeah, thankfully.
Okay, you got anything on Saw 5?
No.
Like I said, the series of traps with the nail bombs and the story of there are 5 people who didn't know each other yet all kind of worked together unknowingly to end up killing 8 people and stealing a property, then being put in a room together and having to figure out what they have in common. Only one of them really knew what they all had in common, and he was keeping that to himself and sabotaging themselves from.
Which I'm glad he died.
Yeah,
I'm glad he finally fucking died.
Sabotaging themselves from actually winning the game, and everyone could have survived, and not figuring that out till the very end. All the while, we have Strom chasing down Hoffman, and Hoffman just leading him to his own demise. Because again, nobody fucking listens to the rules, and everything is laid out very clearly. Get in this box; it's your only way to survive. And then you put the man in the box instead of getting in yourself.
Simple following instructions. I have to say, there aren't many times when I'm watching movies that I genuinely find satisfaction in someone getting killed. But the dude that was the reporter, like, there was like, I was this close to clapping when that motherfucker caught it, because he was pissing me off so bad in the first like half hour of the movie. Like, I could not stand this dude for the life of me. And even then, they find out later on that there was room for all of them to just put two people in each one of those spots. He could have failed, but because they had all decided that we can't stand him either, it's like, yeah, you gotta go, bro.
And here's the thing, because at the very beginning, I felt most worse for Ed. We don't even know that much about her, but like the first one that died in the neck trap,
the dog collars, right?
Yeah, like where they had to break the glass to get the keys, and then later on, it wasn't until the very end that they find out that the one key could have unlocked all of the fucking neck ties or whatever, the collars. That's crazy. It was crazy to me. I'm with Matt here. This is probably my favorite game, because like, if they had worked together, everyone could have survived, and their pain would have been minuscule compared to what they actually went through. But I also agree with Reek here. Like, the reporter, aside from Xavier in the second film, is probably the main characters in this entire franchise that I almost clapped and almost enjoyed their death because I'm like, good, fuck out of here, instigating shit, making shit worse because Xavier wasn't helping things, and neither was his reporter.
I also really like Julie Benz, who, if you guys are a fan of Dexter,
Mm-hmm.
and Megan Good is fine as fuck. So,
Yep.
Reek, how you feel about Megan Good?
Oh, listen, let's not. We mentioned 2004 once already. We go back there. Making Good was top tier. Like if it weren't for Christina Milian, I think Making Good would have had the entire 2000s on lock.
I wasn't she the what was that movie with Chris Rock in it? And I think she was the one that was like the friend in the past that was trying to like tease him and like lure him into like cheating, and he never didn't actually do it at the end.
That's Kerry Washington.
That's Kerry
But I
Washington.
know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I think I love.
I'm
my
mistaken,
They
but
don't all look alike, Vince.
shut the fuck up, Matt.
But
That one white guy. And
in his defense, Kerry Washington is another
Yeah.
top tier.
Kerry Washington, Megan Good.
Megan Good's death is actually probably like my favorite death, just because it comes out of nowhere. You've got Julie Ben's character. It looks like they're gonna sacrifice the fucking crackhead who started the fire and everything, and then she just takes it and jams it right in her neck. And the whole point of it is there's a bathtub and there's a lock and there's a timer, and if all 5 circuits aren't connected to the water in the bathtub to open the locks, C4 nail bomb goes off and everyone dies. So what they end up having to do is jamming, hooking, and clamping all of these electric circuits to Megan Good while she lays in the tub, only to find out that if all 5 of them had survived, they all would have suffered a little shock and everyone would have been okay.
Also, too, even if they killed the reporter in at the very beginning, or like even like in the bomb one in the second level, still like 4 of them would have been fine. I feel like, right?
Have you ever been electrocuted? Like electrocuted?
No.
A little shock, not bad. One person having to take double the shock, that's gonna fucking suck.
Yeah. Honestly, that pissed me off. Like I know Megan's character wasn't all that favorable, but the fact that y'all did her so dirty like that,
honestly, I thought she had a very merciful death because all she did, she died knife in her throat. She didn't get like some grueling fucking bear trap or like angel trap or anything like that. She took a knife to the neck. She still looked pretty in the face, and then she just like after she was dead, she was using as a conductor of electricity. But
she got her out and she died, but we had to watch as she was used as a damn pincushion in the tub and get stuck with all the electricity at the same time. That was bullshit. I was pissed. I was still pissed.
What about you, Katie?
What?
Favorite death and/or trap from Saw 5? Just because you look very disinterested, and I want to bring you back in.
No, I'm here. I would probably say the collars, because it does get reused in a different way in what we're not going to talk about, but like Jigsaw, it gets revitalized, revamped, if you will, even though that timeline doesn't really make sense. But no, that's like the coolest thing. It's like you have to give and take, but of course they're all selfish and they don't know how to do that. So I'd say probably that one.
Well,
I'll say.
Sorry.
Pretty much the only things my notes, dog collars for sure. Favorite trap. Kind of how Hoffman pretended to use the games. He's the only person on the planet that could figure out how to make a gray area in Jigsaw's games. Like he found, like it was really weird how he like blended the rules with how he put it together, and the return to teamwork, like team focused traps where there was more than one person playing at the same time. Like those are my takeaways from this one.
That was fun.
Yeah. I was gonna say my favorite was the pendulum because it took me back. I don't know who's up on Edgar Allan Poe, but it brought me back to that story, the pit and the pendulum.
Yep.
But that was some, and maybe that was the inspiration for it. But like, it was some dark shit. But then when you find out the guy's backstory, it's like, oh, so this was another revenge situation. I mean, for Hoffman, it was revenge, but
It's all revenge.
yeah, that's some cold shit.
Oh, some cold shit was John walking up and being like, "Your blade was inferior."
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna try and be me, do it right. And that's actually how Hoffman gets caught, is because he used a different kind of blade to cut the jigsaw piece. So eventually, when he fucks up and does it a second time for some reason, they're like, all right, only 2 murders have happened. And oh, by the way, the other one is Seth Baxter, the guy that killed your sister. Isn't that interesting? Any final thoughts on Saw 5?
Oh, I think we got everything.
I like that.
Saw 6, again, revenge. This time it is revenge on the associates of the insurance company and the guy that's running the insurance company that denied John the ability to go seek alternative cancer treatment and threatened to drop him from coverage if he did. We find out Perez is still alive. They hid it from even
Hoffman.
Strom. No, from Strom and Hoffman. Because we didn't talk about it, but Strom dies at the end. Like, he's been framed for the murder. Erickson thinks it was him. He gets crushed. And then Hoffman goes and takes the hand that was left and starts putting fingerprints places and doing things. But Perez, Strom's partner, is still alive. I don't even think I mentioned it, but John delivered his final wishes to Jill in the last one, which ended up being Hoffman's game. Which we, again, the little things, like there's a package in there that she delivers that we don't even find out who she delivers to until 7. The fact that there's a reporter sitting in the front of Hoffman's ceremony that ends up being the sister of the insurance agent. And we find that out in this one. She's a reporter who's related to the insurance agent or insurance hedge fund, whatever, the guy running the insurance company.
Yeah.
But we just see her sitting in there, like, taking notes, just chilling in the crowd. And then she's back in an important role. Hoffman ends up getting figured out by Perez and Erickson and murders them in a blaze of glory. Also, this man goes through all of this stuff only to have his fate decided by the family of someone he denied coverage to and essentially sentenced to death. So there was no winning for him because in the end, it was someone else's choice as to whether or not he was going to survive the game. Do you guys think that they could be tried for murder for that?
Yes. They pulled the trigger, essentially. At the very end, they pulled the trigger. They had the choice to be like, no, I'm not going to commit murder here, or yes, I'm going to commit murder here. And they chose murder. They chose violence.
Is it that raises the question of, like, if I don't do this, if A doesn't happen, then B equals my death.
I'm gonna give you they could be charged, but they'd beat the case because they're under emotional distress and they don't know what the scenario they're stuck in. They're basically imprisoned in an area. They don't know what's going on, and the kid, he's a teenager, I'm guessing. He's under emotional distress, and he ultimately did it. So it's like a good lawyer, they beat that case.
Also, too, if he's under 18, he can be tried as a juvenile instead of an adult, and he get less a severe sentence or any kind of ramifications for that. The fact that it wasn't the mom and it was the kid that pulled the trigger, essentially, that does help them beat the case. Yeah, I know, but
switch engage.
Kill switch.
Katie, do you think that they could be tried for murder for shoving acid into a dude's body and melting him by choice while his sister watched from another cage?
Well, the mom's free and clear. Like, she didn't pull the kill switch in any way, shape, or form. The kid, it would be a messy case if it ever went to a trial.
Telling you, he beats it.
I mean, more than likely, yes, but
All right. Also, it turns out that not only is the trap for Hoffman enacted by Jill as per the last wishes of John to test Hoffman, it's also the same trap that saved Amanda's life, and he survives it, but not the way Amanda survived it, because he wasn't meant to survive it. And now Jill is fucked.
yeah.
Unfortunately. I also like the little detail, like the little Easter egg. There were a total of 6 envelopes, and there were 6 films at that point in the franchise. So I like that little Easter egg. It probably, I don't know if it was by design or not, but I like that little touch there. I thought that was cool.
Favorite trap from 6?
It's the carousel.
It has to be the
The
carousel.
shotgun
Come on now.
carousel. Like, that's
Yeah.
Really?
It's not my
What's it-
favorite.
This was one of the ones that came to mind. It was almost like the reverse bear trap. Like, when I thought of 6, this trap was almost the one that came to mind immediately. This and the rack, reverse bear trap, and the one that we're going to get to in 7. I almost said it, but when we get to 7, there were a few that were like immediate in my brain.
I'm not even going to consider another trap. I'm not.
See, for
And
me,
I
for
can
me it was
offer
the maze.
With the steam.
Okay.
The Steam
Yeah.
Maze I liked.
Yeah, that was it's
Because-
also one there.
The Freddy Krueger maze. Exactly, Katie. It felt like you were in Nightmare on Elm Street as she was going through, and he had to punish himself. But in the end, again, with a saw, she was going to cut that man open and get the key to her safety.
By any means necessary.
Yeah. For me, so he had like 3 accomplices, obviously, or whatever, like his publicist, his I forget
the key.
Yeah.
Throat.
So that was mine, because his whole thing is like this person like saw no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil type of thing.
Oh no, that's 7.
That's 7.
That's 7.
Yeah, because that's the dude who fakes being
Publicist
in
was
the trap.
fine.
My fault. Never mind. In that case, I retract my statement, and I'm gonna go with the gallows one, the one where he had to choose between like the dude and the old lady. That was probably the easiest one. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, you have no family. It's just you. No one's gonna really miss you. She has a family. It's just like, I can't do that to the old lady. You don't have to hang yourself right there. I'm gonna hang you right there.
However, to Reek and Katie's point with the carousel, my favorite part of the movie is that dude losing his shit after realizing that he saved the 2 women and he's just gonna die, and just like monologuing and ripping into him. Oh, so it's like that, huh? A bitch opens her mouth and and just goes off right before he gets shot.
Well, 2 out of the 3 women survived.
Yeah.
One of the women died.
I offer a unique perspective on this, because the whole thing is about how scrummy the life insurance industry is. And I know that firsthand, because I happen to have my life insurance license. I work for a company that does life insurance the right way. And I know, like, the what's it called? The wolf pit, or whatever it is that they are.
The dog pit.
Yeah, the dog pit. They're the underwriting team. The underwriting team is basically the people who go through and go through every little detail, your medical history, to decide, oh, is this worth the coverage? Is that worth the coverage? And they also very, very scrummy people. And that's another reason why I enjoy the carousel scene, because they're essentially the bearers of fate, and they don't do it the right way. And it's really shitty. And the guy that oversees all of this also is very shitty, because at the end of the day, the life insurance industry is all about, trying to, do people pretty dirty, and it's pretty.
Kudos to him for actually following the rules, though. For the most part, he was one of the few people that were actually sitting there and trying to follow the rules. He knew what he was in At that point, obviously.
Yeah.
At
Yeah,
that point, the legend or the tale of Jigsaw was notorious, and he knew what the fuck he had to do. Even at the end, he was just like, "Oh, like fuck, it wasn't my game to play," and he knew he was fucked.
Well, the thing is too, and I think, and this goes back to my point, the damage that he had caused up to that point had already been done. So I think in the back of his mind, he realizes like my fate might be sealed in this. So it's like let me just do the right thing up until whatever point it leads to, because I mean, how many lives I done destroyed already at this point? It's like it was fitting. Because I think John had the line of the movie where they took the flashback to him going to him about the experimental treatment or whatever that he lose his coverage over. He's like, what was it he said?
In the Far
Uh,
East,
Yeah.
they pay the doctors when they're healthy, not when they're sick. So essentially, you pay for what you want, not what you don't want.
Yeah.
We have it all ass backwards here.
Yeah.
He went on his whole little like soliloquy there.
He's like, something about the dead speak for you or something like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that
that
because
was cold.
John had his life in his hands essentially, and he was already dead at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But before we move on to Saw 7, I actually do have to sign off. I've exceeded all the time I was allowed it for tonight. We're at a 2:15, so I have to sign off. I can't finish Saw 7, but I already mentioned that my favorite one was the one where she tried to get the keyhole, like the key.
You just love deep throating, we know.
Yeah, everything with the throat. But I do gotta sign off. But this was fun, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming through, Vince.
Appreciate it. Later, y'all.
See
Bye.
you.
You can follow him all sorts of places, and if you go watch our other shows, you'll know where. Before we move on, one last thing I want to mention, because I'd be remiss if we didn't. We talked about Seventh Heaven. We need to talk about Eddie Winslow.
Yes.
Oh, indeed. You are absolutely right.
Being in the dog pit, being one of those guys, being the guy that finds all the insurance flaws and everything. Was not expecting when I turned this movie on, or when I sat down there for the first time, that I was going to see Eddie Winslow get murdered. But here we are.
Here we fucking are.
I've seen him get jumped, and now I've seen him get killed.
Damn.
It was cold. It was cold.
So Saw 7. Honestly, Hoffman in this movie is so fucking great to me, and I don't understand how he didn't get more roles after this movie, because of how dark and menacing and violent he was. Like, I could see him doing so many more cool things after this movie, and the fact that the man just never really did anything after this. He survives the reverse bear trap. He is now hunting down Jill. He has the FBI looking for him because Jill is gone, and essentially been like, yeah, no, give me immunity and I'll tell you everything, and like rats him out. And all the while also still doing his traps and like still fulfilling and ending things. There's the main focus of the story, which is a guy who, to get some pussy, pretended that he was in a jigsaw trap and has been running a support group for people that survived jigsaw traps, including one of the ladies from the last movie that we didn't talk about who had to cut her entire arm off, for a pound of flesh. We see that Dr. Gordon's still alive.
Indeed.
And just hanging out.
Just vibing.
He's
does
just
not
dealing.
He does not seem to like this dude whatsoever. We find out why, because he faked it. He lied. He got rich and famous and wrote books and shit about something that never happened to him. Like I said, Hoffman goes on a fucking murder spree. He is murdering FBI agents and cops with his bare hands and all of this to get to Jill. And the most surprising thing in this movie isn't the ending and the reveal. It's that they fucking kill Jill with the reverse bear trap. And we actually see what happens with the reverse bear trap finally.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, it was only fitting. I mean, at the time, they assumed that this was going to be the last of the franchise. It's like we had to see that trap in action fully.
Well, not
Jill
I'm not
dying
saying it
was
had to
the
be
shocking
Jill,
part.
but like
Yeah.
we had to see that trap actually work.
Yeah, that was kind of cold. Because she and if you really look over this entire franchise, like she was probably maybe the only one there that like really didn't do shit wrong. Like she just happened to be married to a guy who lost his shit after she miscarried due to circumstances.
As we find out, the reason she asked for immunity and what Hoffman says is she was aware of everything going on and was complicit in all of the murders. She didn't do anything to stop them, even though she didn't necessarily participate.
Yeah, well, she was also just trying to distance herself from the whole thing because she saw him spiraling into that dark place and just kind of just said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. You're on a dark path. I need to go this way.
I'm
No,
just
we're
saying,
not talking about Spiral. That's the next movie.
if I start killing motherfuckers and Katie's aware that I'm killing motherfuckers and she doesn't go to the cops and say, hey, this guy I do a podcast with at least once a week, maybe doing some fucked up shit, and then I get caught and they find out, she's in trouble.
Matt,
Plausible deniability.
I was just about to go there. Matt, you're cultured, sir. You know the phrase, I don't see nothing, I don't know nothing.
Yep.
So
Here no
Truth.
evil.
that's how it works. We
Mind
abide by
your
that
business.
statement.
No evil.
Mind
Which
your
makes
business.
sense for, by the way, this was Saw 3D. And even more fucked up, we had to see Jill die twice in Saw 3D because she died in a dream and then she died in real life.
Second titty, by the way.
The second titty, yes.
Dose face ace titties.
Exactly.
We had to watch her die twice. I also have pictures with her, and in the picture that I took with her, I'm standing in front of the poster, so it looks like her hair is my hair from the poster.
That's awesome.
Anyway, favorite kill / trap from Saw 7. Vince said it was the throating of the key.
Which
The garage trap with Chester.
Oh, it's so
Chester.
it's
Crawling in my skin.
Oh my
She's
god.
Wounds they will
no,
not heal.
Stop.
I can't do
How about you
3D
go play
movies
this game?
anyways. So like it did nothing for me, the 3D effects, because I can't wear 3D glasses. I can't do any of that. So I've only ever seen it in 2D. So
It's
like
not even worth it in 3D.
yeah.
Nothing.
It's
No
shitty.
Yeah.
3D movies.
Yeah, this was by the point in time where 3D was basically like kaput because they fucked with it too much. Yeah, that's fucked up. And if Chester was still here, I might feel differently, but nowadays I can't. It's tough because
I mean, he was a white supremacist in this movie.
actually no, yeah, that is true, but it's Chester, man, it's Chester. I have to go with the one in the very beginning. The two dudes who were getting, I guess, didn't realize that they were both getting cucked at the same time or whatever. They just, one's messing with the other, and there's how two best friends don't know they're messing with the same chick is beyond me.
drugs
but
are
yeah.
a hell of a thing, brother.
I guess so.
Pussy is a hell of a drug.
Yup.
Yes. Yes. But they got to decide between, running the saw into the other person or just saying, fuck it, drop back and just let it cut her right up the middle. And they were just like, yo, after they done cut each other a bunch of times, it's like, man, yo.
It's because
Fuck this
these
chick.
hoes ain't loyal. She was cheering for whoever was winning
Yeah.
up top. Like, bitch,
And
no.
It took them entirely too long to catch on to that too, which really pissed me off. But they realized in time to live through it.
If anyone's listening this far into the podcast because they love this franchise, my goal was not to cover the Saw franchise. My goal, the whole reason I did this was because now, for forever, I want you to hear Crawling by Linkin Park and think of Chester peeling his skin off the seat of that car
Stop.
before the tire drops and smashes that girl's face. That was my goal going forward. Every time you hear that song, I need that visual of Chester in that car.
No.
Mission accomplished.
Oh god.
My favorite trap, though, outside of Chester, crawling in his skin, was the blindfolded dude that had to walk the boards.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking that one, but
He was like blindfolded, but it was supposed to be hear no evil. So like I don't know how like that really worked.
yeah.
That's just me.
Yeah, I had that one in my head. I had the wife, even though it was pretty fucked up. Like
That one
beyond fucked up.
pisses me off
Why?
so much. She did nothing. We're talking about people who did nothing wrong. She did quite literally nothing wrong.
She was lied
She
to.
did. She didn't know her husband was not actually a part of a trap.
Yeah.
She was just trying to support her man.
However, when he confessed everything, she said, "I still love you anyway."
Yeah, but by that point, it was already
She was
like
done for at that point, which
Yeah.
that's like a real like torture thing. The brazen bull, I think, is what it's called. Like that's real,
Yeah.
They cooked her ass.
yeah,
which is
for sure.
disrespectful.
She got cooked.
Cooked.
She got cooked.
We don't have my co-host here, but this would have been very appropriate with that soundbite.
So disrespectful.
Damn
Yeah,
it,
that's
TC, I
cool.
could've used you.
But I think honestly, the kill that was like the most brutal to me was the chick that had the rusty little points sticking out that were coming closer to her face. And
Oh, it was like the wheel, and she was getting.
yeah, he had to like hook it up and like stick the things into his shoulders, but couldn't get it together. He couldn't get his shit together to save none of his people, even though he swore up and down he was such a survivor. Like
He at least tried to save everybody.
I mean, that man did shove hooks in his titties. And the only reason he failed was because he had to flex those titty muscles to close that circuit and plug that shit in. He got all the way up to the top. And it wasn't until he grabbed the cord and went like this, and that muscle tensed, and then that shit ripped out, that he fell and failed.
no.
how did he get them scars in the first place though? Like
Oh,
if he wasn't actually in the trap. Was he
Could've
a
got
woman?
those- He could have got
Was
them
he-
bitches tattooed. Like
Was he a female before this? Did he have
no. I guarantee they were like, listen, you're going to make a shit ton of money. We got to cut your chest a little bit. Right.
That's
What would you
damn
do
fair.
for $1 million, Reek?
Lots of things.
I mean, I guess like if it's the chest,
Yeah, see? Mm-hmm.
no,
Fuck it.
no.
But also, he was trying to save his wife. That's different. Like, you got a different kind of pep in your step if you're trying to save that person.
True. We find out at the very end that apparently, as we've been talking about, the network of people working for Jigsaw is far greater than we ever thought. Dr. Gordon being one of them, the only person that was privy to everything that had happened, the only person that was truly in John's inner circle. They kidnap Hoffman and they lock him back where we all started to die. Along with a couple other people that we didn't see revealed that I'm assuming were also survivors of the trap from the survivor group.
I was telling you guys, I just watched like all the kill counts because I had no time to watch all these movies. According to internet speculation, the two other pig masks with Gordon were the two dudes from the public execution one.
Okay.
That's fitting.
According to speculation. So
I mean, if you expose that my girlfriend was fucking around on me with my best friend and then let us get revenge on her scot-free, I might be like, all right, cool. Yeah, no,
That's
I
what
like
I'm
you.
saying.
yeah, cool.
Even though it was Hoffman. We find out that Dr. Gordon was still alive, and that was who Jill delivered the package to, and the extent of Dr. Gordon's help in everything that Jigsaw was doing and all of this stuff. And if anything were to happen to Jill, Dr. Gordon was supposed to take care of it. And oh boy, did Wesley take care of it.
Man.
He did.
Appropriately so.
Well, yeah.
So getting all the way to the end here, Will, do you still feel like things got way off the rails in Fast 10 Cars in Space?
See, the irony is by the time we get to 7, like tying everything into the final chapter, they kind of closed the book for the second time. You were like, okay, us not being able to get to 8 or Spiral, like Spiral may be one of my favorite movies in the entire series because it tears everything down to the core foundation. You know what I mean? Like it takes away everything else that's ever happened. And we don't even like, that's the weird thing about it. It's like Fast and the Furious. And then it goes back to being a really badass series because that point in 4, 5, and 6 that I really didn't care much for because it seemed like they were making it to be too much. They really kind of landed the plane in 7 to make you go, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
2 weeks from now, I'll have to look to see what the date is. We will come back together because what generally happens after we do these is me, Katie, Reek, and in this case, Will or whoever we're sitting down with, we'll end up having a conversation, be like, oh, I forgot to talk about that. Or, oh, I wanted to mention that and I didn't every time. So within 2 weeks, we'll have that stuff. What we'll do is we'll revisit anything that we forgot to talk about. And then we will talk about essentially the spin-offs in Jigsaw and Spiral in our next episode. So we'll make that. Plus Vince didn't watch those. So
Yeah.
he's not missing out on anything.
Good point.
You guys got anything else from the franchise as a whole you want to touch on that we might have skipped over? Like, I don't know, the woman whose husband was beating her and the barbs through her into him. And that was from 4. We didn't even talk about that. That little girl that got abused.
I definitely forgot about that.
Knocked that dude out.
Have you ever made the connection with John Kramer and Kevin McAllister?
Go ahead.
Think about the fact that Kevin McAllister is a little kid and like how in-depth his booby traps are and the things he does and the way he sets people up to really just fuck themselves over whether they want to or not. And then we see John Kramer later in life intentionally setting up these real fucked up booby traps whether they want to or not. They're even if they do the traps correctly, they're still going to fuck themselves up. Even a little bit. John Kramer.
John McAllister.
John McAllister.
I've seen that so many times where people are like, Jigsaw is what Kevin McAllister grew up to be.
Exactly.
So you're saying to me that Kevin grew up to perfect his craft in the sickest of ways.
All of this is because his fucking family went to Paris without him.
Well, he made his family disappear.
You guys are terrible.
Matt's like, you're never coming back on this
It's-
show again.
I can't
It's a
argue
pretty
with
good
it.
argument.
I can't argue with it.
See, we can't argue.
The last question I have for you guys, I can't argue it either, and actually that would be fantastic. I was just giving you shit, Will. Do you think anyone really learned anything from John Kramer's games?
Hell no.
Did he really change any lives?
Dr. Gordon.
Dr. Gordon.
But we don't really know much
Amanda.
about what's been going on with. No, he didn't change Amanda's life because Amanda started cutting herself and then still again got tested and failed that test and ended up dying. Same thing with Hoffman. Hoffman finally got tested because the shotgun wasn't a real test and just proved that the brutality that John was trying to take out of him wasn't anything. And in this movie specifically, we see the woman who cut her arm off, where they're like, "Oh yeah, well, I learned something." What the fuck did I learn? That I lost an arm? Like,
Exactly.
she was hot, not like
Yeah,
hot like
there was nothing
Shotzi
there.
Blackheart hot like angry hot about the whole shit.
Would
So,
Shotzi still be hot if she only had one arm?
dude, Shotzi could have no arms and no legs, and I'd still marry her. Like, I just carry her around
In a little like papoose, like in
Oh,
your little
man.
like a
backpack.
backpack. I'm like,
What
I love you,
even?
baby.
What even is this conversation?
Wow.
Spoon feeder? All right,
Uh-huh.
I got this.
You
Whatever.
relax. But no, nobody learned a goddamn thing in these movies. And when 10 comes out, nobody's gonna learn anything either.
Nah. It's like Breaking Bad. All this is a story of how fucked up the American health code system is. Like, if we had better healthcare coverage, none of this shit would have happened.
That's a good point. I always like to say Dr. Gordon, just because, at the end of the day, I mean, we don't see him for a long period of time. There's a gap, but it's like it's hard to say that he didn't get something out of it at the end of the day. Like, he was the only person to kind of like come to grips with what he had to really do at the end of it and do it the way it was supposed to be done. And after getting saved and stuff like that, he just becomes part of making the traps. And he never killed anybody so far as we know. Technically speaking, like, he's like setting the traps, being part of it, but he technically didn't kill
I
nobody.
mean, he left Hoffman to die in that bathroom.
That really,
If you shackle someone in there and then leave them to die with no way out, though, that brings me to a very good question. We saw how Eric Matthews got out of that bathroom, and I'm sure Hoffman's aware of it. So even though they threw the saw out of the room so he couldn't cut his own leg off, is there any chance Hoffman bashed his own ankle to bits and pieces and escaped that room?
and
Maybe Hoffman shows up in 10.
and this is fair game if you ask me, because the object of Hoffman being tested was in 6 with the bear trap. Since he decided to make his own way out of that trap in 6, now this contingency plan of another trap or test, whatever, that's kind of fair game.
I mean, Hoffman wasn't really tested with the trap. The trap, like, she electrocuted him in a chair, and then she secured him down and put the trap on him. There was no tape. There was no way for him to get a key to get out of the trap. He was just meant to have his face split open. That was attempted murder.
Yeah, but he knows what he has to do.
He has to get a key, and there's no key.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh,
Yeah, what
well,
the fuck do you mean? He knows what he has to do.
I don't know.
Smashes his hand
did
with
what he
the
had to do.
fucking bear trap.
If like, he would only be in that scenario if Jigsaw felt like, you know what, he's just not getting it. He's not what I wanted him to be, so I gotta cut ties at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, because he became the Hoffinator and just started murdering everybody.
Everyone.
The Hoffinator.
I really enjoyed that. I really did. Just
Oh.
walking around snapping necks, and like, he set up
Oh,
a
hell
mini
yeah.
machine gun and just shot up a shit ton of cops.
Yeah, no, my favorite part was him in 6. Just once they were decoding the audio and they finally got it, he was just like, it was just like instant. He just triggered his kill mode and just slashed the chick's face through coffee and shot up the dude. Like, damn, bro.
Burned the
Wild.
whole place to the ground. Nobody's hearing that audio.
Yeah.
Literally.
It's like the church scene in The Kingsman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which comes
There
out
you
of
go.
fucking nowhere, but it's so cool.
Yeah.
There you go.
Katie, what was your favorite Saw?
Ooh. I'm gonna go. I feel like one's such a cheap answer. I'm gonna go Saw 2.
Will?
One, because of the nostalgia factor of what it is, but I would probably say 3 because it's that last one before it really just starts going kind of crazy on me.
And then we bring it back in 7. Land of
Yeah,
Blood.
like, yeah.
Reek?
I honestly been thinking about it all day. I can't think of another answer besides two. I don't know what it was. Like I watched it the most, but yeah, that one it just got me the most.
It's Donnie
Honestly.
Wahlberg. You can admit it.
I listen. He was probably the most intriguing part of it for me. So
See?
maybe.
Donnie.
I'm taking the cop out answer. There was only one actually directed by my favorite horror director, and that is the original. James was co-producer and things on other films, and part of it, but it was the only one he directed, and he would go on to direct a bunch of shit that I fucking love. One of the only DC movies I actually enjoyed. So
Good point.
Saw is my favorite, though 5 is a close second for me because of the trap and all that shit.
Fair enough.
Anything else before we go? I've had you guys for 2 hours and 40 minutes.
No.
Ah, good.
Will. Botch spots and big cacas.
What he said. Look it up. Google it. I'm the Will Gray, the honorary use of Creation World. If you really want to find my shenanigans elsewhere, look at my link tree at the Will Gray. You'll find everything I do there for botch spots and chair shots and all the other things that I do with my life.
Katie, I didn't make you go first.
You're still making me go second. Whatever.
Plug
You can follow me on
yourself.
Twitter at GatorWrestling13. The link to I'm about to go things She Showcase. Twitch.tv/She Showcase. Typically Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. YouTube.com/She Showcase. Watch the videos because they're way more entertaining. Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts if you want to listen. There is a plethora of videos on the channel, including that new top 5 panel thing I did, which please go check it out. That was fun. I plan on doing 2 more this month. To be determined dates, but those will be done. One will be released this month, one will be released next month while I'm on a 2-week vacation. So stuff will be coming out of the channel.
At what point do we start calling it the She-League multiverse?
I do a lot.
We need 2 more shows. I don't know. Yeah.
Advocate.
Yes. You guys can find me at Recavy24 on Instagram and on Twitter. Just did the most recent episode of Young Kings Wrestling about 8 hours ago. So you can find that at YK Wrestling everywhere. Also, as Matt mentioned, the predecessor to this show is the Havoc Hour, where I talk sports and entertainment, which the latter half is how we got here, as well as everywhere, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts, and the video versions up on YouTube. And as I mentioned on Young Kings earlier today, I have a week off of work, so I might be bringing the Havoc Hour back this week, looking to sketch something up. So just keep an eye out for that.
And if you're here for the horrors, you're here for me at Getting Off. All the horrors. Horrors, Katie, horrors.
Nah.
Yeah.
Could be horrors too.
I'm here for the horrors. At Getting Off on Twitter only, and for the wrestles and the wrestling at Matt Ritter at MATTRIDDER. Live every Friday, 11 p.m. to talk Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, and anything else. 300th episode just dropped. It was a fucking blast. Everyone on this panel was there celebrating with me, so go check it out. And all the dumb shit that we did. Tits out for 300. For Dr. Reek Baker, BBC, Cater Tot, and Billiam. I am the patron saint of podcasting, the Word Matt Ritter, and this has been your #1 wrestling or horror podcast on Pornhub. God damn it.
Sorry.
I'm so close.
God.